to welcome you to my channel. This is Goddess Dawn. This is not how I usually do it, but I just want to hop on here because I'm late. A couple minutes, but I don't like that. So I want to say thank you for your patience. Now, I just want to let you know how this is going to go because I have a lot of new people and some people don't know the lay of the land. But I do want to shout out my warriors who are here. I see you right on time. So look, especially to those in the replay. I have live people here, especially in my chat. I like to greet them. I do play music ahead because I'm still shuffling some papers around. I just came from downtown LA, hella traffic. All right, so it's going to be a couple minutes, but just chill out, hang out, I see you, love warrior. Get your thing, get your life in order. What you going to do? Are you working also, just listening to me? Are you driving? Are you cleaning? Are you just relaxing after a long day? Are you waking up? What's up? I want to know. So yeah, I just wanted to hop on here and say that. I got a full breakdown, of course, from today's court session. We had a couple witnesses and a couple of, witnesses who have returned. So we had one witness that was new and two that have come back. I won't give you too much because there's a lot. Any of you who listen to me on Conscious today in the afternoon, what's up? Thank you for coming over. And just know that the first little bit, because it was about an hour of the whole day, is from the morning. Is from what I discussed on Conscious. But I'm just gonna redo it, and so just hang out. We're gonna have a good time.
As we continue to breathe slowly and deeply, we center ourselves and ground ourselves in our own divinity, creating a space for self-love and the self-embrace. Self-love is the best love. The love that we have for self determines the love we have for and receive from others. As we begin to love ourselves more and more, we create and make room for healthy relationships. It is your duty to love yourself. As we inhale, we receive divine love and divine healing. As we exhale, we release and let go all of the things that are toxic and prohibit our self-love. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be loved. You are the source of happiness. You are the source of love. Pour yourself into yourself and replenish your vessel. You are radiant with love. You are overflowing with love. There is no love that is greater than the love you give to yourself. As this love is the love you share with the divine that is in you. We do not love ourselves because we are selfish. We love ourselves so that we may know our worth, increase our worth, and attract the same love we give ourselves. I love myself perfectly. I love myself completely. I love myself so that I may share and radiate that love in all that I do. I am a vessel of love. I am a being of love. I love myself now and eternally. Eternally.
All right, all right, all right. I'm ready to get this thing started. And I'm ready to get this thing ended. For real, for real. Like, this thing is crazy. It's exhausting for sure. To be honest, I can't even imagine how Tory Lanez feels. I actually, typically I sit in the front row of the court. And so I have a good eye view of him. I like to look at reactions, the jury, everybody, the attorneys. So with that being said, it's just, it actually was really sad that this is happening. This should never have happened. This should never have happened. And the fact that, well, things, we will get into it. Let's go.
God is dawn. Like and subscribe. Comment something nice. Loving this light. Here's God is dawn. God is dawn. God is dawn.
Comment and subscribe. Comment something nice. You heard him. And that was the kid, right? My son. All right, so let's go and get into court. This is not really court music, but let me turn that down. No music in the court. Oh, I gotta say hi to my chat here, my warriors. What's going on? Hey, Joelle Jackson, you first today? Good to see you. Thank you so much. Chrissy Power. My girl. Love Warrior. You coming on? Yay or nay? Let me know. Or anybody wants to come on, let me know. I'll drop the link. If not, it's all good. Who else is here? I saw Wild Wayne for sure. What's going on, EC fan? Oh, Merry Christmas. Oh my goodness. Merry Christmas. Ray, what's going on? Welcome back. Beautiful spirit. Hey, sis. Okay. Ooh, Shamina's here. Yes. G. Washington. Marcus. What's going on, King? Good to see you. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. Miss Della. Miss Della. Been looking for you. We'll be back on our politics real soon. This thing is about to be over. Victoria. Hey, Victoria Plays. Welcome back. Forever, Anisha. Hi. Welcome. All right. Now, good to see everybody. It was a very interesting day at court. When I say everyone, I'm speaking of the public and the press. We are all actually one. But for whatever reason, they want to separate us and have one on one side and the other on the other side. Of course, the press is prioritized, right? So I like to get there early, get my press pass, and sit down and just relax and do work and do all that stuff while I'm sitting there. Shout out to Vince. He was in the chat last night. He has a different name on his chat. If you see somebody with travel in there, somehow let me know. All right. So court this morning started We were in session at about 10:45 a.m. This is day 7. And the judge started out by talking about the replacement of a juror, number 63 specifically. They had a scheduling conflict. There was no drama to it. It was just that this particular juror had a couple of doctor's appointments. You know how those doctor's appointments can be. If you miss that doctor appointment, it's going to be a problem. So anyway, they were undecided as to how they were going to do it. Did they want to accommodate her? What are we going to do? We have alternates. So yeah, they went ahead and replaced her. So after they discussed this, the jurors enter. Number 95 replaces number 63. Prosecution rests with stipulation. When they get real in the nitty gritty of the legal speak and the numbers, and all this stuff, I'll try to catch it, but you guys, I'm just giving you what happened. You don't need to, what I'm saying? We're riding in a car. You don't need to, know what's in the engine. Just enjoy the ride. So, with regard to the stipulation, unregistered firearm was mentioned. Okay, and then the judge went ahead and gave them permission to reopen if necessary, meaning the prosecution. So they have officially rested their case, but they do have a possibility of reopening depending on the stipulations at hand. So the witness is sworn in. I mentioned him yesterday because they brought him in at the end of court to tell him that he's expected tomorrow, which is today. And this is the witness, Sean Kelly. He spelled his name. Defense asked if he remembered the incident. And I don't know if you weren't here yesterday or don't remember. This is a Caucasian man. He looks easily in his 60s, but maybe 70s. His hair is white. Yesterday it was a little disheveled, but today he had like the wet comb back situation. And he had kind of a loose suit, or I don't know if you want to say frumpy. Yeah, he had an interesting face. So he got on the stand, and dang it, I forgot to ask somebody if he had on glasses. I didn't remember glasses. No, I don't think he did, but I'm not for sure. So if anyone is listening who was in court, or if you saw a cartoon sketch, or let me know. So with that said, he has also an accent. Sounds British. Someone else said more Scottish. So just imagine, this is the person that's on the stand, Sean Kelly. All right. So the defense asked if Sean Kelly remembers the incident of July 12th of 2020. They asked if he resides in Nicholas Canyon. That's obviously where the shooting took place. And they just basically asked, tell us what happened. He said, I was asleep. There's a large driveway with garages, and it's often used by people who talk so they can get cell phone service. I think he says, who want to talk on the phone. But yeah, he said that there was lots of shouting. He went to his window, which to his balcony, 2 French doors. But at this point, they're closed. He looks through the window of the balcony doors. He was initially just going to open the doors and tell them to be quiet, because I guess he's used to, as he mentioned, noise, people talking, because that must be a good spot for Wi-Fi. He got good Wi-Fi. He said also his son was awakened. His son, he said, sleeps on the same side of the house as him. And yeah, he said he had to get him situated. He said he sleeps in the same area. So they showed a picture of his property. He describes the driveway with his Jeep. His Jeep was parked in the driveway on the picture. It was like a wide driveway. The balcony was in view in the picture. He says that's where his bedroom is located. They gave him a pointer like stick to use so he can describe the rooms. Like, I think the right side, those were his kitchen windows. This is where my bedroom is, like that. He said he saw a vehicle when he looked out the window. They asked him to draw the vehicle's location on the street um, next to the Jeep. And before I move further, I'm going to put up my Cash App because people ask me, did you put up your Cash App? I'm like, no, but I'm going to because I have had to stop my life for almost 2 weeks now. And it is very challenging. But any help you can provide. And when I say help, it just means because it gets expensive. Parking, really it's just parking because I don't really eat. I have been eating, but I don't expect people to pay for my food. But you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying I'm working hard. That's all. All right. So I'm going to put it. I think Wayne has it. Are you in the chat, Wayne? If you have my Cash App, can you put that up and I'll put it on the screen? All right. Or if you're just listening, it's God is Dawn, the number 23. Very simply. Of course, with the $sign in front. Thank you very much. All right, so back to Sean Kelly. So when they asked him to draw the vehicle on the paper, the printout of the property picture, so he drew the picture of the vehicle right next to the Jeep. The Jeep was on the driveway pavement, and the SUV was. It looked like the sidewalk, to be honest, and it may have been. I couldn't tell if it was the sidewalk part that slants into the street, like a driveway part, or was it? But it didn't look like it was parked on the street. It was kind of close, according to the picture that he drew, close to his Jeep. So there was just a small amount of space in between his Jeep and the SUV from the picture. So he says he looked through the balcony windows first. He says he saw two girls arguing. He said it escalated. They were standing next to the car, meaning the SUV. He pointed to the space in between his Jeep and the SUV. He said two doors were open and two girls were arguing. He stepped out onto the balcony. He saw two girls fighting, pulling hair and hitting each other. Quite violent, he said. He saw a third party, a tall gentleman who got out of the driver's side. He said he was wearing all black, and he said the larger gentleman, right? Yeah, the larger gentleman. Then he said that's all I have for that right there. But then he said his son ended up coming out and he was speaking to him. So basically telling us that he had been distracted. Obviously, he's concerned for, his son is awakened 4 something in the morning. All right. So he said the driver got involved with the two women. They were fighting for a while. He told his son to get in his bed, the father's bed. He said the fighting was, or maybe it was his son's bed. Actually, he didn't really say specifically. It could have been go back to bed. But he just said he told his son to get in his bed. The fighting was still going over. And mind you, he has a British or Scottish accent also. He's not American. And he's not from America. And that's another thing that we're going to have to talk about. His perception from who he is and where he's from is a little different. Okay, so I'm thinking intuitively. All right, so the fighting was still going over. He said they were bent over. One, like they were pulling hair and bent over and fighting. He said one went to the passenger side, but they were still fighting. He said it went on for several minutes. He said he was standing on the balcony. Nothing was obstructing his view. Now, mind you, the defense is asking the questions that are soliciting these answers. So he's not just, this is not how he's speaking. These are answers to questions for the most part. Um, Although they did tell us what happened, but they're still interjecting questions. Okay, so let's see. They were still fighting. It went on for several minutes. He was standing on the balcony. Nothing was a view. He could only see the top of their heads. I couldn't see them fully. Okay, with that, I just want to, because sometimes I forget, so I'm just going to say it here. So the space in between the car and the SUV, the doors, the passenger side doors were open. Um, he's saying that from his view up top, he can only see the tops of their heads, and that he couldn't see them fully. And I question, well, whose head? Because listen, we are talking about two extremely short people and two tall people. And if he's saying I can only see the tops of their heads, I'm wondering if he can see everyone's heads or only the tall people's heads. When he was describing the women, he never really, like for the men, he would say the small one and the tall one, or the small one and the large one. But for the women, he never distinguished anything different, like the taller one. Well, the one that was limping, I guess that was why, because she wasn't standing up straight. So, okay. Hey, Isis Laz, you're late, but you're on time. I just started, really. Let's see. Doesn't that mean your view was obstructed then? That's what I was thinking. I had asked someone this. I was talking to them. But he thought that he could see everything, but it was just from the top. So he could see all four, but it was just from the top. But I was thinking, from what I saw of that picture and the space in between the SUV and the Jeep, there wasn't a lot of space, which means that the tops of the his Jeep would have, I would think, slightly obstruct his view. I mean, that's just, oh, that's the first picture you've seen. Oh, can you do me a favor? I need can you look up the cartoon pictures for court, something recent? Because I don't have, I forgot to look the lady up. I'm talking to Love Warrior, by the way. Love Warrior. And text or email, please. Thank you. During this, like, thank you so much. Okay. Let's see, where was I at? Okay. So anyway, that I don't know if you agree or disagree as far as the view of his view being obstructed or not. Okay, let me get back to him saying nothing obstructed his view, and he could only see the top of their heads. I couldn't see them fully. He said he saw what he thought was fireworks, and then he realized very quickly that it wasn't fireworks, that they had the audio of the gunshots. It was very, the gunshots ring throughout a neighborhood. It doesn't, you could be around the corner, up the street, you're going to hear gunshots. So, and the Ring doorbell that picked that up, I don't know where the location, I think they did tell us, it might be in my notes, but they were, the gunshots are very loud and clear. All right. So he thought, okay, so he realized it wasn't fireworks. He asked if it was a muzzle flash that he saw. He said the smaller gentleman was screaming. When he says the smaller gentleman, he's talking about Tory Lanez, okay? Of course. And then the taller or larger gentleman will be Jaquan, his driver that day, morning. Okay. And then, of course, Kelsey and Megan. He said the smaller gentleman was screaming. He said they were all shouting together. He said all four were right there. Like they were all in the same vicinity, all shouting. I mean, can you imagine? He's probably like, what? Megan had a bikini on. I think, what did EJ say? Tory was wearing drawers. Like, it was a whole mess. This man's waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Do you think he's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed? Do you think his senses are fully intact. He's just being woken up suddenly, looking out of his balcony window, looking at some black people fighting in front of his house. What do you think he has in his mind? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm gonna just listen to what he says. Let's see. Mm-mm-mm. He said he saw more flashes. Okay, wait. Let me go back. He said all four were right there. He saw the smaller gentleman get out of the back passenger side. He said he saw more flashes that he described as gunfire. Spoke to police 3 times. They came on the scene. The police, he said, when the police came onto the scene, he spoke to a sergeant. He said he spoke to maybe a defense investigator on the phone, excuse me, and a prosecutor investigator. Give me one sec so I could take a sip of water. Okay. Isis last, he heard gunshots and looked out of his window, no ducking. Okay. No, I think he said the gunshots came after. Yeah, no ducking, right? He does get triggered when the gunshots are played because they do play the audio. Okay, let's get to that. Let me keep going. All right. So so he's letting us know. They asked him like about the police that he did speak to because he wants to obviously, um, he wants to basically make his case that the officer's testimony is flawed. So he spoke to the police 3 times, like I said, one on the scene, um, defensive investigator. It was established later that he did speak to the defense investigator who has been in the courtroom. I've been calling him the third man. I didn't know he was the investigator. I should have known because he's obviously important to the team. He's right there with them in the back in the front, well, sitting behind the lawyers, but and he's they confer with him. Well, the lead, he confers with him quite a bit, but I hope they're not listening because I feel like they do. They want to find the people who are in court just to see what they're talking about. Not to do anything. I'm just saying they just probably want to know what we're saying and what our perceptions are. I only say that because remember yesterday I told y'all they approached Armand just deliberately. I feel like somebody the night before tipped them to the fact that who he was. This is my opinion. And I know this is sidetrack. Sorry for those who don't like the sidetracks, but the sidebar. But I just have to get this out because I'll be forgetting. And then I'll be mad at myself because I'm like, oh man, I didn't mention this. Like I didn't tell y'all yesterday. I met Gloria Allred in the dang bathroom. I was leaving. She was coming in and I was like fanning out. I've been fanning out too much. I was like, Gloria Allred. She had a big pink mask on. I knew exactly who she was. And I didn't know she had just got the convictions in the Weinstein case. Well, it was lunchtime actually. So I don't know that happened yet. But that was so dope. She gave me her card. She was like, you're so sweet. Here's my card. Of course, I had to tell her I do YouTube. You know what I'm saying? This is like, we are warriors over here for survivors and victims, of course. So just saying. But that was dope. That happened. Oh, and did I tell y'all that I had got on the elevator to leave? And then Tory and his security got on the elevator. And when he got on the elevator, he was like, there's no jurors, no jurors. Like, he was being kind of funny. But actually, I was like, man, why did he have to do this? Because he does seem, I'm telling you, he does seem charming. Like he seems like now I feel like now that his guards seem down in the court, you see like a broken person, like a sad person. I see sadness, even though he does laugh at things in the court. I see when his shoulders are dropped. I feel it as well. So just to say that if this doesn't go his way for this, it's a lot of time he's facing. And it would be a shame. He brings his son to court. That will mean his separation, division from his son or family. You know what I'm saying? Like, That's crazy. That's why we have to be mindful. Y'all need to stop all that drinking like that. That liquor should be out. That should be outlawed. Like they want to outlaw marijuana. The liquor is and not just liquor. I'm sure. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if it was just liquor that night. They was at Kylie Jenner's house. I had someone arguing with me that Kylie Jenner is like, she don't do drugs. I'm like, you need to go back. I specifically said the episode with her and her sister Kendall in that sprinter van when they were fighting uh like enemies on the street. I mean, like two cats that hated each other. But anyway, there were some things going on, and Corey was there too. Corey, and you could tell him and Kylie party together. I'm just saying, and don't y'all come for me and know you know, I'm just giving my opinion. Okay, let me get back to this because there's a lot to go. Okay, so he said he saw the muzzle flash by the girls. He said the girl who got out of the passenger seat, one of the girls was kicking at the other girl. The other girl was inside the vehicle. He said, okay, he said the girl crawled and stopped across the street. Did not hear Dan's bitch, because that's what they asked. He said he said even though he could hear them quite clearly, which was interesting to me because at this point, by putting that out there, you're telling me you know exactly what was said on the scene during the excitement. What was said verbatim, you heard quite clearly, although this was 2 years ago and this is court. I don't know, those interviews, and come to find out the first one wasn't even recorded. And that's Stogner. We'll talk about him. Okay, so no dance bitch. He could hear everybody clearly, though. He didn't hear that. He said two of them had the gun initially. He didn't see the gun, only flashes. He keeps making sure he's saying he didn't see the gun. I thought he was going to curse the defense counsel out 1 minute because he kept saying, well, when you saw the gun, who had it? And he's like, I never saw the gun. Only the flashes, So, okay, let me get back to it. Hey, Mary, welcome back. Yes. Hi, Brandy. I always thought it was kind of weird that Corey was partying with Kylie. See? You knew, right? You saw it too, right? Okay. Not suggesting anything. I just don't see myself partying with my mom's boyfriend without her. It is weird. Okay. Bing, bong, boom. Actually, on that. Okay, so let's see where we at. I got to keep my finger on here because that's where I get lost. Okay, so he said the flashes, two of them had the gun initially. Two of them had the gun initially. Didn't see the gun, only flashes. Saw the flashes closest to the girl. All four were in close proximity. Although, remember, y'all, only Tory and Kelsey had the gunpowder residue, the gunshot residue. So if they were all four in proximity, I mean, I would think maybe all of them would have residue. But let's keep going. I believe that I saw the muzzle flash with the gun first. The smaller guy was shouting and very angry, making a lot of noise. He said the smaller gentleman stepped out of the car and joined the fray. So basically at this point, he's saying he was in the car. Now remember, what has been testified to is that he was shooting from the car over the door, standing on the runner board. I'm just saying. So they said, he said he believed the flash was the closest to the girl. He didn't know it was a gun at first. He thought they were playing with fireworks. He asked him to read his statement to the police in silence because they were asking him because it seemed like he was kind of going back and forth between, well, first it was two of them, then it was close to one girl, and they want him to be clear. So they had him read his statement, and it's a pretty long statement. It's like a couple pages. He confirmed that he said the muzzle was closer to one of the girls, said that they were all fighting. He kept saying that they were all fighting, like they were all crazy. He didn't say crazy. But I can imagine what he was thinking at the time. Asked if he saw the shorter guy was going to take. Okay, so his attorney is asking him if he saw the shorter guy was trying to take the gun from the small female person, um, from the female person who was shooting. He said he just saw he was screaming and arguing at some, and he said at some point the flashes came from him. He said at some point the flashes came from him. Okay. So they showed him, of course, the defense wasn't expecting this, child. They were not expecting this. I'm going to tell you that right now. That defense attorney, and I'm sorry, I can't even, I need to learn his name. I think it's Modesty. But he then showed him his statement again. Tory looked upset. I looked at Tory. He looked upset. Asked if his memory was refreshed after he read it. He was like, well, he was kind of stuttering and we didn't really understand everything he said. But they kept going. He said they were all fighting. He said, so the defense kept pressing him about him, who the girl with the flash, who had the flash, who he kept re-asking the same questions. He's like, finally he said in his accent, because I don't know how to do a British or Scottish accent, by the either one. So he just, but he said, he didn't say, excuse me, I have a gun. And everybody just cracked up. I think Tory laughed at that. So they said, let's see. Okay. So he said it's kind of questionable. Oh no, I have a question mark. Oh, because I didn't get it. Whatever he said. But he said he thought it was fireworks. He insists he thought it was fireworks at first. So the defense asked if he called 911. He agreed that he did. He asked if he said it was the fireworks or gunshots when he made the 911 call. He said he didn't remember. He said they were both shooting. That's what he said. They were both shooting. He was shooting first. He said the initial muzzle shot came from the girl. He said he was, looks like pushed. Okay, yeah. He said he was pushing. He was pushing and fighting both girls. And he's talking about the smaller guy here. He was pushing and fighting both girls. They were all fighting. And he said the taller man was trying to separate them. He said everyone was fighting. He believes the shorter guy was still in the car. He says he saw the gun. He says he saw the gun. And then in parentheses it says never saw a gun, only flashes. So maybe he said it, but he didn't mean gun, but flashes. He was very nervous and flustered a bit. But it says he saw a gun. Then he says never saw a gun, just flashes from the shorter guy. He was still in the, He was still in the vehicle and got out and started fighting the girls. And see, this goes with what Kelsey said, or what was said on her audio. And I think Megan said it too. When after the shooting, because Kelsey was freaking out and she was tending to Megan, trying to see if she was okay. And I guess it pissed him off. Well, according to what they're saying, it pissed him off even more. He got out the car. He was out of bullets. Remember, he emptied the chamber. No more bullets, right? So he has to get out now and fight with his hands. But they say he got out the car and he was fighting the girls. This is from the witness from the balcony. The witness from the defense. The defense brought this witness, y'all. Okay? Remember that. Okay, so he was still, okay. He said, so they asked him what happened when the police got there. He said when the police arrived, he went downstairs because at this point he had called 911. Uh, but they're gonna go back some, and you're gonna hear where Quan was like, or somebody said, he doesn't know who, but someone he said the police are coming. All right, they must have heard the. I wonder if the police. You think they came with sirens? I wonder if they probably did. It's LAPD, because I'm thinking, why would they have sirens? Because you wouldn't want to scare them off, right? Seem like you would want to just creep up on them, in my opinion. I'm not a cop. Don't want to be. Okay. He asked him. So when the police got there, he went downstairs. He said it maybe took them 15 minutes for the police to get there. So they had like 12 minutes, all that commotion to go on. Well, before the police got there. So he told the police that he saw two people fighting. The driver got out to stop them, and then the shorter guy got out. The judge then called a sidebar because I think the defense was, the prosecution, something was happening where the judge ended up calling sidebar. I'm trying to think. I don't have any notes on why all of a sudden the judge called the sidebar. It could have been because of what was being said. And because, like I said, he had definitely caught the defense off guard. So let me see. It says, so when they get back, they continue speaking with Sean Kelly. He said the first day on the scene, he spoke with officer. He said he was truthful. Oh, yeah, that's what happened. The defense came back and was like, are you being truthful? And he confirmed he's being truthful. He says he told them he initially saw the girl closer to the muzzle, asked if he remembers Detective Stogner, still got his heart on for Stogner, doesn't remember names, remembers speaking to a female DA, as well as a male sergeant, and then a police officer that night. Okay, because the defense wanted to establish all of the different contacts that he had with, law enforcement or attorneys. So he did have contact with the female DA, a male sergeant on the scene, and a police officer at that night. The male sergeant, I think, might have been telephone interview, and I think that was Stogner actually. Yeah. So he was asked again, if he was being truthful. Seemed like he was treating him like a hostile witness. The judge intervened, and he asked the guy whether, he said, whenever you spoke to the police, were you truthful? He said yes. He's like, okay, basically saying we don't need to ask that anymore. Okay, he said he was being truthful. So he said the two girls were fighting. The large guy got out at first. Says again, two girls were fighting. He kept repeating that. It says, appeared to have gun. He heard shots before the smaller guy got out of the car. Okay. So when I have the note says appeared to have gun, I think when he said the two girls were fighting, he said it appeared. Because at first he said two people had the gun, and they were fighting, and then he said the muzzle shot. He didn't see a gun. That was the problem. The gun part kept coming up, but he never saw a gun. He only saw the muzzle flashes, which he initially thought were fireworks, according to him. Okay, so the larger guy got out at first. He got out first and says, again, the two girls were fighting, appeared to have gun, heard shots before the smaller guy got out of the car, which again, remember, supposedly he shot from the car over the door. I'm just saying. He saw one of the ladies was curled up on the floor in fetal position. He said they were beating her. Both the men and the girl were beating on the one who was limping earlier, or he had described was limping. She was curled up, he said, on the ground. He said the bigger guy said the police were coming. He and the bigger guy so picked up the girl. He said looked like they were about to throw her in the river. Now I don't know where this came from. I guess there's a river or a, what do they call those, a reservoir near his home. And this is what he said. He said then he said it appeared they were trying to kill her. That's what he said. So he confirmed he didn't see them. Asked, who got out of the car first when they arrived. He said, I didn't. He said he didn't see them when they pulled up because he was awakened by them fighting. They were already there. The passenger side doors were open before the shooting. He confirmed that. Tory was looking confused. I had looked over to see what his expressions were. He was looking like, what? And then no more questions from the defense. So the prosecutors are up now. Okay, okay. I guess y'all are listening. Let me put my Cash App in here because I guess mine didn't have it. Because I'm going to forget. And not to say you're obligated, of course, but if if it's in your heart, I appreciate it. So now the prosecution is up to cross-examine Sean Kelly. Let me see some of these comments. Queen Keish. Okay. I wonder if he didn't get a clear vision on things, but eyewitness testimony can always be tricky. Kelsey looks like Carly Red on the photo. Okay, beautiful spirit. I wonder if Meg and Kelsey were really fighting. It's hard to tell if they were, but either way, I believe Tory shot Meg, so the ladies fighting doesn't really matter to me. It's always someone looking. That is so true. That is so true. Someone used to tell me that. I think it was my mom. She's like, no matter what you're doing outside, it's always going to be a camera or somebody's looking at you or something. Like, just not me, and just in general. This is how people are. This is how the world is. You might somebody's video camera because, that's what people do. It's very strange partying with your mom's boyfriend. Yeah. Even if Tory was to pay off the girls, it's still witnesses. Yeah. Mind you, this is defense big witness. Exactly. Do you think Tory Lanez messed with the jury? Personally, I don't think so. Because if the only way Tory could mess with the jury is if the judge was also in on it and the DA, everybody would have to be in on the play for things like that to be able to happen. Because you can't just crack the criminal courthouse jury without going through certain channels. Not even a clerk, I think, can maneuver that. I don't think. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of people, like I've been saying, think this is like a production. It feels like one. So, but look, we'll keep going. Let's see. So the poor guy asked for water. He looked so upset. He recalled calling 911. The prosecution is up on their cross-examination, asking him questions here. He did recall calling 911. Told them there was a violent attack. That's what he described it as when he called 911. Prosecution asked if first statement was, they are beating girls. He was like, all three of them were beating the girl. Asked about the short guy that he got out of, asked about the short guy that he got out of the back, because he did say he got out of the back passenger. He said he saw the muzzle shots when the small guy got out of the car. He said that. Is defense witness? I'm like, I was saying this while I was writing this down, right? And I'm like, wait, this is a defense witness, right? But again, his attorney was doing his best to, combat. But now the prosecution is up. Of course, they're going to be objecting and all of that. I wrote most objections down, even if I don't know. Sometimes they don't say why the objection is sustained or overruled. They just keep moving. So, but I don't think there have any so far, which I thought was interesting. All right. So he said Tory was shouting a lot. I put he, but then in parentheses I put Tory because I knew we were talking about Tory. Because anyway, just trust me. Were they staying? Were they? Were they saying anything? Yeah. Were they saying anything? He said yes, but he didn't say what. He never said what, because he earlier said I can hear. I heard them very clearly. Didn't hear Dan's bitch, but I could hear everything very clearly. When they asked him here, the prosecution, were they saying anything? Yes. Well, what? He said just shouting and screaming. That's what he said. So, well, what did they shout and scream? What did they say? I want to know. He was okay, says he was involved with the others when he shouted when he started shooting. That's what he said. He was involved with the others when he started shooting. He said his arms were outstretched. Now, mind you, just like on the defense, this is them asking him questions. So they're like, what was the smaller man doing when he was involved with the others when he started shooting? They asked how were his arms, or they might have asked if his arms were outstretched, and he said yes. I just put arms were outstretched. He asked what direction was the gun firing. He said everywhere. He said firing everywhere. Mm-hmm. Now we know that she was shot at her feet, so you would think that if he saw the shooting or the muzzle shots, flashes, excuse me, he sees only muzzle flashes, right? That he wouldn't say everywhere. He would say towards the ground, or something that makes sense to someone with foot injuries. But he said everywhere. Okay. They asked how many. He said he heard about 4 to 5 shots. Of course, we know it was 5 shots. They did play the gunshot audio at this point. I think that's always very effective. This actually triggered Sean Kelly. You could tell he was even more upset after he heard those gunshots. And that also, someone in the chat said something like, well, he didn't duck. He just was outside on the balcony with the gunshots going off and everything. But that is a good question about, like, if he's still so traumatized, what was his reaction after he saw those gunshots? He said he called 911. I'm sure he wasn't just standing on the balcony when he was calling 911. He had to probably get his phone. Maybe he went back when he had his phone with him, but it's I don't know. His testimony is very all over the place. All right, so let's see. So again, he heard 4 to 5 shots. They played the gunshot audio. He said he recognized the audio of the gunshots. He said he was shooting. She was kicking. Then he said she was kicking all the time. The girl who was injured. After he got out of the car, after that, he got out of the car. She was bleeding. She was calling something. He didn't say what. He was like calling out or calling someone. Can I just say, then he just kind of stopped answering the questions and said, can I just say that my son was with me and he was on the floor? Because obviously that's, he had the son on the floor. He probably did duck. He probably did duck down and then had his son stay down while he, called 911. He said he was concerned for his son. And we know that bullets that fly, that, are being shot everywhere, can go everywhere, including through someone's window of their home. Right. Been there, done that. All right. So, he said and then the prosecution asked him, or said, your son found one of the cartridges, right? And he agreed that his son actually found one of the casings. He reiterated that he never saw the gun. He said he's not sure if it was he said not sure if it was a female firing. She would have been firing inside the car. That's what he said, meaning from inside the car. Well, he actually did say inside the car, and I was like, she would be firing inside the car, but I think he meant while she was inside the car, she would have been firing, because he said that it was coming from, well, let me just keep reading because there's more. He said that the injured female fell onto the road straight away. She was fighting all the time, kicking. He mentioned that kicking a few times. He says she crawled across the road and balled into a fetal position. He said the short guy was screaming a torrent of abuse. This is this man's words. I remember he's not from America. He's someone I said British and someone else said Scottish. And then I think the prosecution said, calling what kind of names, like a MF. I don't know if he said the whole word. He said they were all calling each other names, and then the N word was brought up. He said the short guy was really agitated, like he was really pissed off. So the defense comes back up to redirect. They gotta patch these holes up, child. This thing is on burning down to the ground. This witness, this thing is a bad idea. I was like, why did they have a witness like this? It just goes along with everything else that was going on in the case. I was hoping that he would have some testimony, only because everything else is so messed up. Can we get one thing that's right in this case so we can finally put the bow on this bitch, like, and send it away overseas? I mean, why? This is such a bad idea. And his attorneys seem to know what they're doing, but then you have to remember it was his attorney that opened the door because of his questioning to them to be allowed to play that whole 80-minute audio. I believe he also today opened the door to allow the rap lyrics, the full song, Kelsey's full song, which I believe she said she didn't do it, allowed that into evidence. Okay, let me keep going. So the redirect. The defense said he wanted to establish some dates. He shows him a paper with dates on them, just to refer. They asked if he interviewed with defense investigator on January 5th of 2021. He said so they showed the paper so he could refresh his memory, and he said, yeah, and spoke with the DA in September of 2021. Yep, confirmed that. And prosecution spoke with him 9 months later. They confirmed that based on January meeting with the defense investigator, and then all the way in September, the same, and then a whole year after that, that's when they met with Kelsey. A whole year later from the time this witness was interviewed. The prosecution spoke with him the prosecution spoke with him 9 months later, spoke with officers earlier than the 9 months. So in between January and September, he had also spoken with the officers. They asked, was my client, Tory, of course, in the vehicle when the muzzle flash, when they saw the muzzle flash? He said they all came out very quickly. So at this point now he's saying he can't tell who was where. They all were there. He said, isn't it time you stated? He said, isn't it true? Isn't it true you stated it appeared he was trying to get the gun from the girl. Showed him his statement to refresh his memory. He confirms he never saw a gun. The judge says it was brought up several times. Like, can we get off of this? Asked if the smaller guy was still in the vehicle, he said he was holding something and it flashed. And then he heard shots. And I think that's key. That's a key statement. He said he was holding something. It flashed. And then he heard the shots. But then he repeated that they were all fighting. He said that the smaller man was the loudest, highly agitated, shouting. Tory was rolling his eyes at this, looking mad. He does a hard eye roll. Tory has this thing. I've seen it more than once. I've seen it maybe 5 times. It's a hard eye roll where you know how your eyelids kind of flutter when you roll your eyes, like a hard roll, like not like your neck is swinging, but I'm just saying the eyes, like, yeah, I've seen that a few times from him. So now we have, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, so Tory rolled his eyes, and then they asked, "Who did you see here now who fired the first shot?" And he said, "The girl. The girl fired the first shot," and that was how he ended the redirect. So now they have a recross exam. The prosecution is back up. "Did you know you were recorded by the defense?" He said, "Not at all." And he said they said, "You would have liked to know that." And he's like, "Yeah, I didn't like that." Like he appeared to be unhappy with the fact that they had recorded him without his knowledge. At least some of his interview. The defense investigator called, he said, a few times. Shows him his statement to recall the positioning of everyone outside of the vehicle. He said that he was outside fighting when he said, meaning the smaller guy. He said the smaller guy was outside fighting when he heard the muzzle flash. Now that sounds different than what he said before. And I put confused in parentheses. He said that the defendant started recording. I'm sorry. Does it say recording? Oh, okay. Defense investigator. I'm sorry. He said the defense investigator started recording him after he had already made some statements. So they're trying to say that you guys had a conversation off the record. And he basically confirmed that. The first time the girl was mentioned was her. Oh, so they're asking him now, was the first time the girl was mentioned and was with the defense investigator? And then he gave him his statement to read. He said he did not mention the girl to the 911 operator. Then the lawyers approached the bench while the witness reviews his statements again. He said he did not mention a female being the shooter to the officer on the crime scene who did record his statement. He didn't mention a thing. I'm missing a page. Wait, hold on. Why am I missing a page? Oh, okay. Because we went to lunch. Let's see. Okay, so the prosecution basically have established here that the female, him saying that the gunshot was close, the gun flash was close to the female. He didn't tell that to the 911 operator. He didn't mention it to the officer on the crime scene. He only mentioned it to the defense investigator. And then he did establish they had an off-the-record conversation before the recording started. Okay. So then we break for lunch. And we're going to keep going. All right, so we resume from lunch at, we come back at 1:40 in the afternoon. The jury enters the building or the room. The judge reminds Sean Kelly that he's still under oath. He's still under oath. He's coming back for round 2. Let me see. Let me look at your chat real quick. He is an eyewitness. The shooting happened in his driveway. Yeah, that's exactly what we're discussing. Kelsey wasn't trying to talk to them. And of course, Tory is visibly upset. Their witness is painting him as aggressive and abusive. Yep, that is key info. So the security cameras caught the audio of the gunshots. Did catch any audio of the verbal arguments? We don't know where the ring shot audio came from. I mean, the ring bell audio of the gunshots. I don't think they came from this witness. So no, there was no audio of speaking or shouting or anything except on the audio. And I don't know if they excluded any. I doubt that they would have excluded any audio that was on there. But yeah, only audio of the gunshots. Exactly. Okay. Yep, he was rolling this. He sure was. He's reactive. He laughs. He sometimes look confused. He rolls his eyes. Sometimes he just looks tired, like I just don't want to be here. Okay, let's keep going. So we're going to have a recross examination. The prosecution is back up. Mind you, there are sides in the audience of the public and the press, just the people who are observing. Like every time, okay, I'm going to recross. Like, can we get this over with? Everyone's so tired over this case. All right, so he looked at his 911 call and statements to Detective Diaz. He said there was no female mention. He said the first time the female shooter came up was with the defense. Speaking with the officer, he was more concerned with his son, he said. He said who suggested there was a struggle with the gun? Who suggested there was a struggle with the gun? No, he asked, why does it say who suggested? Because the answer is no. So I'm wondering, something's not right with this. I apologize. Who suggested there was? You know why? Because sometimes when they say something, they'll object and then they'll have to rephrase the question. And I think they did rephrase the question and asked if anyone suggested if there was a struggle with the gun. So I might write down the question and then there'll be an objection, rephrase. And then when they rephrase it, I just, it's very similar. So anyway. So the prosecution's asking or saying that they're going to play audio of the defense interview. Like, do we need to play the audio? But they instead gave him the transcript, and he said it didn't really refresh his memory. He said, so they gave him the transcript again, and they told him just look at lines 12 through 15. The judge asked if his reading the transcript is helpful. He said no. So the judge said, let's move on. Like, I actually like this judge. Someone suggested, I think it was Jaguar Wright, because yeah, she popped on my. Did I tell y'all? I told y'all, right? She popped on my live when I was on Conscious TV. Shout out to Conscious TV and Conscious Crew. Any of y'all who are over here, appreciate you. All right, so let's see. Says the shorter man. Oh, Jaguar Wright. I was gonna say she said something. What was I gonna say? She said, child. I forgot already. I know she said the fix is in for Tory because he's independent and rich. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. But if he wouldn't have shot Megan, then he wouldn't be in this position. They still might be after him. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That stuff does happen. They do go after independent artists. You can look up. There's a couple of labels. When you look up the deceased rappers over, a short period, maybe a couple years or maybe 3 to 5 years, you're going to see that's those two same couple, or maybe one mostly has all of these artists underneath their roster who have been murdered. And they have life insurance policies on these artists too. by the way, as well as the rights to their music, probably. All right, let's get back to it. He said the shorter man had an object in his hand, outstretched arms, gunshots, torn of obscenities. Then she crawled across the street and curled into a ball. He said the small man was very angry. Now there's a redirect from the defense, because they can't let it just end there, right? So they asked if he knew he was being recorded. He said yes. See, he said yes. Now he knows. They didn't. They just said, did you know you were being recorded? Yes. He asked about the walkthrough, and I think that he means with the he meant with the police officer who came to the scene. They did like a walkthrough. He doesn't remember changing his story. He said, so you're being truthful? He said yes. He said, do you remember the 911 recording? Not really. Do you remember saying the shooter was a female? Gave him the transcript to refresh again. He said he has no memory of it. Any questions for you to give a description of the shooter? Okay, he was asking if there were any questions for him from the officers on the scene, or the investigator that he spoke to. Did they ask you for a description of the shooter? He said no, which was interesting. So the prosecution, who is supposed to be investigating to find out who shot Megan, did not ask the ID of the shooter. What do they look like? Give me something. They asked him about he asked him about Officer Diaz. Any mention of a shooter or description of shooter? He said no. And Officer Diaz, I believe, was on the scene. Asked if he remembers speaking to the investigator. He said yes. Do you remember what you said to Officer Diaz? He said no. Gave him a copy of his statement again to refresh his memory. He said, what the date? Wait, hold on. He said, what's the date, sir? And then there was an objection. Let me drink some more water. I'm sorry. These court days are, it's like I'm on a battlefield. Oh, by the way, there was a arguing in the lobby, and there were YouTubers involved, child. Just saying. The defense trying to rehabilitate their star witness. Rehabilitate. And it's still not working so much in their favor. It's not working in their favor at all. Judge appears fair. Yeah, the judge appears fair to me. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. That Jaguar Wright said that the judge was paid off. That's what she heard or something. I don't think this judge is paid off. Because he has well, we'll get to it, but there were some things they wanted to enter into evidence. The judge wasn't allowing it. All right. Okay. Did it help you refresh your memory as to the date? 2020 sometime, he said. Do you remember talk about the muzzle flash? He said. Then he said, do you want to be here? He said, I feel very uncomfortable. I have to be honest. The judge asked if the statement refreshes his memory. He said no. The judge said he doesn't remember, so you can't ask him. Like, stop asking him. He doesn't know. Remember with Kelsey, it was the same thing. Do you remember saying, and this is the defense witness, I can't get over that. This is, do you remember saying you saw them struggling over the gun after the gunshots? He said, yes, they struggled continuously. They were all struggling at the same time. He said they were all fighting. I heard the noise and I saw the flash. Now, mind you, keep in mind that the clip was empty. So I could see after he the shooting is going on. There's pop, pop, pop click, click, click. There's no more bullets. So then one person, two people rush to get the gun from him. Once they realize, maybe he's going to try to reload it. We better get it out of his hands. So then there's a struggle for the gun after the clip was empty. Okay. Do you remember? Okay, so about the struggling. Yes, they struggled. They were all struggling. They were all fighting. I heard the noise. I saw the flash. He said, I heard the noise. I saw the flash. They said, remember when the lady fell to the ground and telling the investigator the smaller guy started arguing with the female? Prior to seeing my client, Tory, of course, out of the car, did you hear anything? He said, your client got out of the car when it all happened. And again, the accusation is from both Megan and Kelsey have said, well, Kelsey in her recorded audio stated that Tory was shooting out of the car. Okay, so yeah, he said your client got out of the car when it all happened. Some confusion over the objections. Yeah, there was like objections and a lot of different confusion. The judge says this has been covered. Move on. So then the witness is dismissed. He's very red-faced, and I know he was happy as hell to get out of there and probably was like, I will never do that again. Because I wonder why he agreed to testify. Because aren't you able to not agree to testify? I'm sure, like when there was a 911 call from a woman, she was like, don't come to my house. Don't ask me no questions. You know what I'm saying? But maybe because he was an eyewitness of the actual scene where everybody was at, maybe that's different. I don't know. But I don't think they can arrest you if you don't want to show up to a trial, a high-profile trial, to try to pin a shooting on, on a man who has a lot of fans. I mean, not to say he even knows that. This man probably don't know who Tory Lanez is or Megan Thee Stallion. But I'm pretty sure he has an idea. I think he probably knows now. I'm sure at the time he didn't know. Okay, so now we're moving on to the next witness. And then before that, they say we're going to do that, but then they have a sidebar, of course, when the lawyers are at the judge's bench. When they finish that, the witness comes in and is sworn, and it is Officer Rogelio Diaz. He was the very first officer who testified on Monday. I was not impressed with his testimony. It was very dry, and it was like he had a fuzzy, he didn't remember. It was like he didn't really remember. As a police officer, this is your job. Like, if you can't remember, obviously you need to be making, you need to be recording. You need to be, making sure you take notes or do something. Maybe even record yourself on tape so you can remember what you know. You know what I'm saying? You have to, as a police officer who is investigating crimes, can't just be going off the dome. Like, oh yeah, I'm not going to take notes. I'm not going to record the call. I'm just going to, let me see what he has to say. That sounds like somebody who is disinterested in doing the job. All they want to do is the bare minimum, enough to have a couple pieces of papers in a file so he could say nothing came of it. This officer probably didn't even think this was going to come to anything, because at some point he probably did get a call from Rock Nation, or who else would have called? Tory doesn't have a label as far as I know. I know he's tight with 1501, but I doubt that 1501 would have called and, arranged all this to, they made it go away. They didn't impound the SUV. They only kept Kelsey and Quan in jail for a few hours, or she said overnight, but it was, it was probably early morning when they got there, and they didn't get out till 8 something at night. So she was only there for a few hours. They were only there for a few hours. Tory got out, like, when did Tory get out? He didn't get out when they got out, but it wasn't much time after, right? This is not how, I've never heard of anything like this. These cops finding a gun, bloody, this woman is injured. You got blood-soaked towel, bloody back seat, just a whole mess. And you gonna just let these people go? Definitely some strings were pulled to try to make this thing go away. We know that Kelsey was picked up by Jilly, I believe her name, or him or her name is, who was one of Megan's managers. So they were definitely aware of the situation. And I feel like they're the ones who really intervened to just kind of make it go away. I don't think they were intentionally intending on pressing any charges, which Megan hasn't. And we have to remember, this is the state or the people versus Daystar Peterson, aka Tory Lanez, not Megan Pete versus Tory Peterson. That's not it. She didn't press charges. And I'm just saying. So yeah, there was some confusion over the objections. It's been covered. Witness dismissed. Sidebar, Regalio. Okay, did I read all this? Okay. So Officer Regalio Diaz, he was asked about the investigation on July 12th of 20, confirmed that he went to the location following a shooting call at the 1800 block of Nicholas Canyon Road, asked him about interviewing Sean Kelly. He said he looked out of the witness who said he looked out of his window and observed a black Cadillac, two females involved in a fist fight in and out of the car. He said, Regalio said that, or Diaz said there were 15 to 20 minutes on the scene. That's how long they spent on the scene, 15 to 20 minutes. He said he doesn't remember asking for a description of the shooter. He said no. He did not ask for a description of the shooter. He shows him a report. He confirms the statement. No questions asked about description of the shooter. And he's dismissed. So he dropped the ball. Another one that dropped the ball, Diaz. He didn't ask good enough questions. He was only there 15 minutes or so. I don't know. I mean, the most I've seen of anything like this has been in the movies or on television. So I'm just going by what I see there, which is what Kelsey said. Didn't she say that? I knew how to call a lawyer. Well, I know to call a lawyer if something happens, but I'm just saying, I don't know how this thing works, but I know that don't sound right to me. Like, whenever are they not going to impound your vehicle? They impound your vehicle for the smallest of infractions, let alone being found with all this evidence in there. How long does it take for forensics to actually take evidence out of a vehicle? Don't they fingerprint dust and do all kinds of stuff? DNA, the blood was there. I mean, lots of stuff was in that car. Matter of fact, everything was in that car. DNA, fingerprints, again, the blood evidence. Who knows? And the luggage. Let's talk about that. The luggage and the Louis Vuitton bag, where the defense is trying to basically say and prove that that's where the gun was, in their bags, not Tory's, nothing having to do with Tory. So we're moving on to the next witness. And let's talk about Detective Stogner. He finally showed up. The the prosecution was looking for him and wanted him so bad, but he's here now. He came today. Now, I put my Cash App in the chat and didn't post it on the screen. I forgot. Now I can't find it. Hey, this is my guy here. What's going on, sir? For real exhausted by all the twists. It's too much. Okay, I'm gonna have to put my Cash App back up in here. Yeah, real quick. Yeah, it's a lot though. But this witness didn't serve Tory, in my opinion, and not one bit. Okay, let's see. Hey, Ashanti Dawson, welcome back. And Owl, welcome. Sounds like a drunk fight to me. Arrest them all or let them go home. Well, Meg hospital, but she was handcuffed. I don't know if she was handcuffed once she was in the hospital and once she had made her call to Desiree or whoever it is that handles her stuff over at Rock Nation. Um, there we go. Thank you, Kino. There we go. Okay, so let's continue. We almost home. I don't know if you want to come up. Do you want to come up, travel? Let me know. I'll drop the link. Did I drop the link in the first place? Let me do that. Okay. If you want to come up and speak your piece, go ahead. That link. I'm still reading through this, but it's all good. So Detective Stogner is on the stand. We have the defense asking questions. They asked him if he was the lead detective. He said yes. Police reports and all, he said, he was in charge of all the police reports and all the follow-ups with regard to this case. He said yes. They asked if there were any follow-ups on July 17th, and that, with Sean Kelly. He said yes. He asked telephonically. He said yes. Gave a description of what he saw or heard. He said yes. 2 females fighting. He said yes. Did he say who the shooter was? That might have been objected to. No, I don't know. He doesn't say anything. I don't have an answer. But it goes on to say that he said the one female closest to the bus flash. Yeah, that's what he said. 2 other persons ID'd. He said yes. He said one was tall and one was short. He said he didn't know who was holding the weapon. He said one of the females standing nearest to the muzzle shot is what he's telling us what the guy reported to him. And of course we heard from him. So, but that was so confusing. And I am curious to know if his statement is as confusing as at that time it was on the stand. I'm wondering why didn't the prosecution just see if they could play the statement to us in full? Because I mean, why not? The audio is always effective, in my opinion. All right. So he said that one of the females was standing nearest to the muzzle flash. Did not mention anything about the shorter man. Your job is to get the truth to the matter, he asked him. And then he said Kelly was a it's not, how do you say this? Precipitant. I think that's what it was. Precipitant witness. And he said yes. Kelly gave the description of what he saw. He said both males and female went to the car. Female closer to the muzzle flash. Did you interview Megan Pete? He said yes. Telephonically, yes. Recorded the interview on the phone when he... Oh, okay. So he asked when he recorded the interview on the phone, who else was on the call? And he said Megan's attorney and her production manager is what he said. He asked if it was Desiree. He said yes. It says it's not standard procedure to record all the calls, he said, because he asked him, why didn't you record or did you record the call? Turns out he did not. He said it's not standard procedure. Like I said, he was being very lazy. He didn't have any interest, or he was told, we're not doing anything with this, so don't even bother. Just do the basic motions so we can close the file. But lo and behold, the DA came sniffing and was like, yeah, we're about to pick this case up. But my thing is, before they decided that, I'm sure they had to review whatever evidence was available to them at the time. And I don't know that. I mean, based on what I've seen, either this case should just not have been brought, or those witnesses like Kelsey and even Sean Kelly should not have. I mean, Kelsey should have been, I think, threatened more with that perjury. Like, apparently she wasn't understanding that the fact that you're lying today, it still counts as lying, and you can go to jail. Like, I don't think she understood that, even though they still kind of let her off the hook, which I don't understand. They should have threw her ass in jail, just at least to shake her up a little bit. Even though then at the same time, I do feel bad for her too, because she was a victim also. Let her, according to her, she was beat up and all that, and then lost her friend, her best friend, her friend who was also her bread and butter. So, oh, Love Warriors here. Yo,
Yo, yo, yo, goddess, warriors, chat.
welcome back.
Thank you so much. Is your friend coming up too?
I don't know. I dropped the link.
Oh, okay, cool. Um, I just want to say real quick so you can continue on. This, speaking on, just continue on what you just said. Speaking on this investigation, how long it was for them to, speak to those that were involved, speak and vet these witnesses, recording, not recording, just the whole investigation is trash. And I do believe and agree. I can't remember who was in the chat, and you might have even spoke on this. This Hollywood, this celebrity dome, definitely reeks of, to me, a familiarity of, let me not say too much. Maybe there's some behind the scenes, greasing palms, all kind of stuff going on, because this investigation is so far, it's not even mention the word clean. It's a dirty investigation. And, this defense star witness, this was bombshell. I thought when Tory's defense witness, kept pressuring Kelsey to say that the prosecution pressured her, and that the judge allowing the 80, 90-minute audio was just game changing. This today is like cherry on top of the whipped cream. Just,
Mhm.
there's no way that that defense expected this testimony today.
Mm-mm.
So that's all I want to say.
Definitely. Okay. Well, thank you. Just hang back, and you know how we do.
Okay.
um. So then they then asked if if Diaz asked Megan if she was intoxicated. There was an objection. Both sides approached the judge's bench at this point. When they returned, they asked, "Did you ask Megan Pete if she was intoxicated?" He said she mentioned she went to a party and alcohol was consumed. "Did you ask her how much?" He said no. He said, "Why not?" He said, "I don't know." He just didn't ask. Did she say there did she say they weren't anything? Let's see. Did she say they were not? Oh, weren't arguing. Okay. Did Megan say that she and Kelsey were not arguing? He said no. She said they were all arguing. Did she tell you she had a fight with Kelsey? He said no. Did you ask her about the argument? He said no. She said it she said the problem was not with Kelsey but with Tory. Did you know Megan Pete and Kelsey got into a fist fight? He said no. He said she denied the fight. He said she didn't say that there was one. Did she say he tried to bribe her with $1 million? He said no. And we're talking about the telephonic call, not the in person. They asked how long the interview was. He said 5 to 10 minutes.
Goddess, that's the first interview like 4 days later, correct?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, because there was only two. There was the telephone and then the in person. This is the telephone. So,
That's crazy.
I think I think he said the 4 day later one was in person, the way that it was described. So I'm not.
No, no, I think the first one was a telephone. It was the first one was 4 days over. It was on the
Okay.
telephone.
Because someone, oh, you know what it was? I was on somebody else's channel and this person said, because he was questioning, he was basically trying to say she did snitch on him 4 days after the incident. And me and another person were on there on this channel. And well, I'll tell you it was Street TV because, you can go check it out. It should still be up. So myself and an attorney, Offie, she's amazing, an entertainment attorney. She We both told him, okay, yeah, she might have met with him, but we don't know what was said. That hasn't been divulged yet. We don't know. Doesn't mean she said anything. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that means that if this was that first interview with her attorney and her label rep on there with her, then it would have been the interview that they were referring to 4 days after the incident.
But let's be honest here. This interview is vague. It's got gaping holes. You know, most interviews with the police, the first interview, are not done on the phone. They're normally recorded. Like you come down and they record you behind. Like this is crazy. There's a lot of allowances, maybe because they're celebrities that normal people would never, never be privy to. Okay,
That's
even if you are the victim. Okay, all right.
yeah. So he confirmed. So there's no mention either of a bribe at this point. It says any investigation to find out if my client was on probation. He said yes. He said, was he on probation? He said no. He said, did you review the reports for any mention of a fight? He said yes. He said, did she mention a fight? He said no. He said she didn't know she had been shot at the time and didn't want to get anyone in trouble by making false statements. That's what she said initially. She says she was afraid because of the police shooting black people. It says the report doesn't mention George Floyd specifically or a bribery. They do recall, it says, do you recall her mentioning a bus stop? He said no. Do you have proof she called her manager that day? He said no. Did she tell you she got in an argument and got out of the car? He said yes. Now, mind you, Megan is the victim. It's like she's being treated like she was the damn shooter, and we know she didn't shoot herself in no feet. And I'm going to reiterate feet because both of her feet had fragments. One of them still has them over her right Achilles heel because they said it would be more damaging to go in and remove. So I'm just saying, I've heard people with big channels actually say foot. They keep saying just the 1 foot. It's not just 1 foot. So no George Floyd specifically, but she did say, police be shooting black people. I ain't trying to be one, nor did I want my people to be part of that, So, and at the time, I guess she was still trying to look out. If if you believe that, because I don't know. Did she tell you she got into an argument and got out of the car? He said yes. Did not mention the bus stop in his interview. Did not mention the bus stop in this interview. Interviewed her twice. Interviewed two people. Gave him two different stories, substantially different stories. Says, does Mr. Sean Kelly, know anyone in the case? He said, not to my knowledge. He said they were strangers. Megan said she walked toward the back of the car. According to Sean Kelly, says she stopped and turned. Oh no, Megan said this. I'm sorry. This is from Megan. Megan says she walked towards the back of the car, says she stopped and turned around facing the vehicle. And there was a back and forth about whether or not she was walking toward the back of the car. Was it southbound? Was it east? It was that they were going back and forth about that for a minute. Never mentioned arguing or fighting with Kelsey. Besides Mr. Kelly and Miss Pete, there were others who heard. Wait, there were other neighbors who heard stuff but didn't see anything. There was an objection. Now there was something said here that I missed, and it was something. I'm gonna have to get someone else's notes tomorrow and fill in this blank because I couldn't catch up. They were moving too fast. I'm just letting you know because I'm trying to be transparent. I ain't trying to twist this story. I'm just telling you exactly what went down as far as my eyes and ears could see and hear. All right. So did Kelsey request a legal rep? They said yes. And you remember Kelsey says she did. She says, that's what they do on TV. Different, but they asked the difference.
Right.
What'd you say?
I said right. I remember that.
Yeah. They asked the difference between a bullet and fragment. Does he know the difference between a bullet and fragment? He said yes. He said a bullet is a casing that projects to the top, and a fragment is a piece of the top of part of the bullet. When the projectiles hit objects, he said it becomes a fragment at that point. Then they said nothing further. So now we have a recross exam. The prosecution is back up, and the sigh in the room, boy, like another question. They're going to repeat the same questions, but we move on. They asked about the interview with Sean Kelly. Remember, we're on the stand. Officer Diaz is on the stand. And the prosecution is asking him. This is the defense's witness at this point because he's been called back. Now, the prosecution has an opportunity to get some things straight. The interview with Sean Kelly was very brief. Confirmed it was like 3 to 5 minutes on the phone. 3 to 5 minutes. There's no notes, and it wasn't recorded.
That's ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah. No notes, and it was not recorded. So there's a summary from him, a recap of the statement to the police. Never saw a female holding a gun. This is Sean Kelly. This is in his summary. Never saw female holding a gun. There were 2 September interviews. They asked if there were 2 separate interviews with Miss Pete. He said yes. One was on 7/16/20. That was the telephonic, like we just mentioned earlier, because they're repeating. This is the cross, so the recross. Does she identify who shot her? He said yes. So now okay, let me see. Yes. 2 separate interviews, yes. Okay, we talked about the one 7/16. Does she identify who shot her? He said yes. Says her friend Tory Lanez. Said her friend Tory Lanez. That's what it was. Said she was so scared and in shock. She didn't know she'd been shot. Prior, she said she didn't know who shot her. Says yes. Did she say who shot her? Did she say she shot out of the vehicle? Did she say southbound? Oh, got out. I'm sorry. Did she say she got out of the vehicle? And was it on the southbound side? He said this is what they were going back and forth before. But the prosecution decided to ask him again. He said Tory was, I think they established that because they did establish it from the defense when they argued it. So Tory she said Tory Lanez shot her. She saw him point and fire. She says she turned her head after the gun was fired, and he agreed yes. She said she saw Tory with the gun. He said yes. Quan did not want to talk to him. It says Kelsey did not want to talk to him. Was a bribe mentioned in her interview? He said yes. This is the in-person interview. There was some talk about money being offered. He didn't say specifically that $1 million was mentioned though. Um, Says she was tearing up and crying during the interview. There was a sidebar called by the defense. Then they called an afternoon break. They actually called it early at 2:40 and not 3, but we got a longer break. So the jury leaves. The prosecution. So at this point, they're still on the record. So we kind of stayed to hear what was going on. Let's see. I have the prosecution discusses counsel. Oh yeah, the prosecution was upset. The guy. He was telling the judge that the defense counsel continued to rebut the victim when talking about Tory being on probation could have been under supervision. Explained in 217, he was charged with a gun. I think it's gun possession. He got charged with a gun charge, and it was his son's mother's gun. They were in the car, and I guess got pulled over, and there was a gun in the car. He says it was the mother's car, the mother's gun. It was registered to the baby's mom. He said, and the case was dismissed. And so he said it was placed under a court diversion. And he said, is diversion okay to say? But so the defense were arguing about the probation situation because they're trying to. Prosecution wants to establish that he may or may not have been on probation at that time, or what they're calling now diversion. The defense is saying like he was only. How do you even know that he wasn't on probation? He was on diversion. It was only for 2 months. And let me see. I don't know if it comes up again.
They have been trying to keep that quiet, Goddess, because was he on probation? Was he not? And that I have heard a lot of talk about that, and it's not clear. Like, whatever's going on with that probation thing, it has not really been let out, and I don't know how, because of course that should be public record, but it's not clear.
Okay, I'm trying to see if the judge said, let me just go on, because I believe the judge said they were going to work that out either into the jury instruction to identify the difference between probation and being on diversion, and let them just know that it wasn't probation, it was diversion. But I'm going to just keep going because some things come up like that kind of answer a question later. So they mentioned the judge mentioned in 1102 code. It says Tory on probation, Tory using or engaged in. Oh, this is okay. So this is the prosecution saying like, this needs to be a part of this because it says Tory was on probation. Tory's using or engaged. He's used a gun or engaged in violent acts. Violent acts can be now be addressed. Questions about being a safe person. Yeah, they asked EJ when he was on the stand if Corey was a safe person. Did you trust Corey with her? Would he? So the prosecution said they're opening the door to now they get to question about his being a safe person and disprove that he's a safe person. And this is yet another time that the defense has opened the door because of their questioning to the prosecution being able to do something that they did not want to happen.
Right. And also, if the other question too, if he was on probation, wouldn't this violate his probation? Like, this needs to be cleared up. But again, like you said, they open mouth, insert foot with their questioning. They opened up their mouth, inserted their foot, the defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they said that, it's character evidence for violence. The prosecution was asking if he testifies to, because I guess it sounded like they were considering having him testify. So the prosecution said if he testifies, we get to inquire about his past acts of violence. The judge said he would exclude that. Sure did. So then the prosecution continued arguing. You
He
know,
would, the judge would exclude the past history of violence.
yes.
Whoa, that's huge. That's huge. Okay.
So the prosecution argued, there's social media posts, rap lyrics, IG posts. There's a 2019 incident. There's August Alsina, Prince from Love and Hip Hop, the 1501 affiliation. He said the lyrics saying something about horse legs. I remember that too, but I don't remember, and I didn't write all the lyrics. But y'all, you
It's
know,
disgusting. He was
yeah,
chopping up horse legs in a
yeah,
video.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the judge said that some would be admissible if it related to this case. And then the judge said that if he testifies, some will be fair of his past history. And if it's pertaining to this case, it's relevant. So he said that they should take a break so they could decide what they want to do.
That's a huge, huge problem for Tory and his team. It's one thing for him to get up there with his ego and narcissism and convincing, because he's charismatic, to convince that jury. But it's a whole nother ball game if they bring in any of those priors and establish this routine character flaw of being violent, of raising hell, and it's an established pattern. It's a pattern. It's a problem.
Yep. So the prosecution has a rebuttal witness en route. They said they're 30 minutes out. They said we're going to go over the instructions at the end of the day, the jury instructions. Okay, so we took a break. We're back from break. Detective Stogner returns to the stand. The jury enters. Detective Stogner returns to the stand. Did I even talk? I thought I did him already. Let me see. Oh, maybe I had the wrong detective that I wrote. I thought it was Diaz. Oh, yeah, that was Stogner. I kept saying Diaz, but it was Stogner because he was the guy who was the lead investigator and who messed up everything. Duh. Okay, so that was
So
Stogner.
that was Stoddard. That was all Stoddard's testimony. Oh,
Stogner, yes.
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that was Stogner. My bad. Diaz had already came and left. He was quick, actually. Lord. Okay. And I said it when he came, but I guess I forgot during the whole thing. I thought he did leave and then okay, never mind. Let me keep going. Detective Stogner returns to the stand. The jury enters. Uh, they're back. The jury they're back in the room, and there's 12 jurors, one alternate at this point. The prosecution, they said before lunch, we questioned you about the defendant. Is it fair to say he was under diversion in Broward County? Is that Florida? Broward County.
It's Miami.
Miami. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And he
Broward
got, yeah,
County.
he had an arrest down there. That's what I'm saying. Something's trying to be kept quiet. And I'm not talking about ruling loud, where he went up on stage in the baby costume or whatever, with the baby and all that. I'm talking about it. There was an actual incident in Miami. Okay.
Well, this particular incident was just pertaining to him being pulled over, getting the gun charge put on him, but then it turned out to be supposedly registered to the baby's mom. So they are saying that he was only on diversion for 2 months once it was all cleared up. So I don't know if that's the same. Doesn't sound like it's an actual incident. So you might be talking about something else.
I'm not sure. I have a little more digging and confirming on that. Okay.
All right. So let's see. So they asked Stogner to explain diversion. There was an objection. Like he doesn't know. He's only he's not no professor. I mean, they basically were like, we don't. He's not an expert. So all right. So the redirect. Okay. So that was the prosecution. This is now the defense. You asked him follow-up questions. He said yes to Stogner. You asked follow-up questions. He said yes. Did Mr. Kelly answer your questions? He said yes. Were you satisfied with your questions? And okay, I'll just say, were you satisfied with your questions? Because there's something else scribbled next to it. But he said yes, he was satisfied with the questions. You understood, he said, muzzle was close to female muzzle flash. He said yes. That's what he understood. He said, you understood two females were fighting per his statement. He said yes. He said, you took a summary. He said yes. He said, everything you said, you put in there, everything that you said, you put in the summary. He said yes. Everything you asked, he answered. He said yes. I thought he asked that already, but yeah, he asked it again.
This is the one that he was salivating trying to get this guy up because he wants to discredit him so bad, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he said, let's talk about Miss Pete. It was telephonic. He said yes. Did she have her attorney rep and rep? Yes. Bribery and $1 million were never asked in the first interview, and he said yes, correct. He said the first interview, she didn't want to falsely accuse anybody, and they said yes. Have you seen her IG when she said her back was turned? He said no. He said, do you research social media when you're investigating cases? He said, it depends on the case. He said, do you think it would be important? And there was an objection. He repeated the question, asking about like the post, the IG post. And he said that based on her statement, she said she turned her head. Did you see the IG post when she said her back was turned? He asked again. He said no. So he shows the IG post on the screen. He says he's never seen it. He said he did not go through all the posts. He was asked.
See, that defense attorney's being slick. He's showing these posts, trying to still paint that narrative that he wants to get out there on Megan. But then again, here we go. You better tread carefully because each time he goes a little too, deep trying to prove something, it backfires on him. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's getting backfiring and backfiring. Let's see. Yeah, so it depends on the case. Okay, so he puts the picture on the screen. Never saw it. He said he was asked by the DA to authorize search warrants for the IG post and turn them over to the DA. So that's what he's saying he did. He's like, they didn't ask me to comb through. It's kind of like, somebody who has a particular role or job, and then, they should know their whole job description, right? So you tell them to do something. You don't specifically spell out the whole thing because it falls under the umbrella of whatever you told them. You know what I'm saying? Like, go investigate
Right.
this. That doesn't
Right.
mean I have to tell you, okay, make sure you do this and make sure you do that. And did you do,
That's right.
you are supposed to know what you're doing. So
That's
like,
right.
even though I think he was like a rookie at the time, I think he was like, no, Stogner was not the rookie. Stogner is a little more seasoned.
Yeah.
So he should have known better. Sounds to me like he was lazy. Or again, like I said, somebody had already pulled some strings and they were like, yeah, this is gonna go away. So, don't even bother like much. Surprise, surprise though, huh? Here we are. Trial. Let me see. They asked do you have any evidence in 2020 that my client was on probation? He said no. What about in 2018? He said no. What about 2017? He said no. And then the recross. Did Megan appear to be truthful? There was an objection. And then it says between her two interviews, which one was the more detailed and the longer version? He said the in-person interview. Then they have a discussion about diversion. There was an objection that was made. It says you were aware that there was a criminal. Right. Okay. You were aware there was a criminal matter where he was placed on diversion, and he said yes. Said he could still have been in diversion. He said 2018, 2019. He said yes. And then there was an objection. And then he said nothing further for this witness. So now that's the other thing. He had obtained information about him being placed on diversion. Like, and then what did you do with that information? I mean, that's just like you said, because that's an automatic to me. Like, he's not a citizen. Y'all have to remember. So, like, I don't know if they have the authority to make any decisions on that matter, but it's a crime, ain't it? To have
Yes, it's a
a
violation. And I just thought about what you just said. They may have thought that they could sweep this under the rug, but social media helped make sure that it stayed alive, right?
well, it
To
took the
some
DA
degree.
3 months. It took the DA 3 months to make it, to charge him,
Right,
and yeah. So I don't know if it was social media that prompted it, because it was a big deal. She came out herself on her IG and said Tory shot me.
right.
I'm sure it was brought to their attention. They were like, well, we can't just not do anything, because if they did nothing and this happened and no charges, no nothing, like that would be really weird. Like, how does somebody get shot at or have ricochet bullets or be injured after a whole arrest incident with helicopters? It was on the news, TMZ, it was all over the place, and nothing happens.
Well, let's just say, and I'm just using it as an example, that Dola Lupa, whatever her name is, right? Different color and every that. Let's say she had been shot. Do you think it would have been 3 months for? And I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna frame the question. I'm gonna frame the statement up to be true and what it is. If she would have been a blue haired, yeah, we'll see, blue hair and blue eyed, naturally blue eyed victim, would have been 3 months? I don't think so.
And I don't know if it took them 3 months to gather everything they needed to make the case, because you have to get that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that goes through channels of
Oh
like
no, no, absolutely, the hell no, no. They ain't
for
have no damn murder where they gotta send off for DNA spec. They had everybody who they needed, even though they didn't run the appropriate, necessary crime scene tools that they were supposed to, but they had at their hands whatever they needed to get done. It was sloppy, and they didn't pursue it to a certain to any type of a decent degree until like, I'm sorry, social media helped it keep it alive, because that video, you can't unsee what you see. We can't unsee that.
right. I mean,
And just like I
video.
mentioned in the chat earlier, I saw today again the video of Meg when she was actually laying in the street, and um, she was laying down on her side, kind of, and she rose up a little bit, and then she like fell down. She actually went unconscious for at least about 10 seconds. It was traumatizing to see that. It's traumatizing. I don't care, what. Nobody don't deserve that. It's traumatizing to see that. Whoever, whatever, that was traumatizing.
So Kino said Dua Lipa would have pressed charges, Meg didn't. Plus evidence is slim. Um, you have anything to say to that, or I think he's talking to you.
Okay, no, I agree. Because again, that's that whole not speaking out due to the police, not speaking out because it was another celeb black man at that, and all of the history and the situation behind it, with all of them having had relations, the whole, all that was messy. So yeah, could she have tried to sweep it under the rug with the glass in the foot? Yeah, until you could not, and until he brought the anger out, because he violated her and she would have stayed quiet, but he just couldn't stop himself. He caused her to go out on live to stop the BS. Okay? So, There it is.
Now, keep in mind, this happened in Hollywood. We're talking the Hollywood police station. So I want to reiterate about Hollywood and the stuff that happens behind the scenes in Hollywood. And I feel like if this was not a Hollywood case, these people would all have been locked up, regardless of someone being injured or not. None of that.
What if
Um,
they let's say what if it would have been Kylie that got shot? It was at her house. Okay? Would nobody gonna go home that night? Everybody would have been locked up, child. Chris would have came in there, everybody been locked up and the key thrown away. And they had to be posting $2 and $3 million bails to get out.
I don't know
Point
why
blank.
I feel like I don't know why I feel like Chris would never. I feel like Chris would have wanted to keep it as private as like if unless it was already out like the news like this one was. But I'm just saying I could just see them saying, no, we'll just say she hurt herself doing
Oh
something.
yeah, they would have flipped. They would have flipped the script. She would have flipped the script. It wouldn't have gotten out. But in this case, I'm just saying if we just switched out people, same circumstances and
Right.
all
Yeah.
that.
No,
It's
I get it. But I'm just saying,
hmm
speaking of them
right.
specifically, I don't know that it would have gotten to this point. I feel
Yeah.
like Chris has them things going on, magic behind the scenes string she pulls,
hmm
and she would have had everybody straightened out. Okay, so
Should have had Ray
nothing.
Donovan. Remember Ray Donovan from Showtime? Should have had her Ray Donovan and your girl from Scandal. She had
Oh,
that
there
thing
you go.
tight, cleaned up. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good. Queen said, I think Kylie should have been called to the stand. Well, she was brought up enough, but at the same time, this is not about Kylie's house. I mean, I know everything started there, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the shooting and who shot her. Who shot her? She said Tory shot her. I mean, is it? So I guess it's not enough that the actual victim points to the actual person and says that this happened to me. You have to have, you know, corroborating evidence. The evidence they do have is circumstantial, because if the gun would have had a print, um, or two, that would have been something. The magazine, but there's nothing on the gun that is conclusive enough to tie him to it. But we do have eyewitness of him shooting the gun. We have Megan who said he shot the gun.
Yeah, you
Kelsey,
got the victim. The victim said you shot me. You can't get around the victim.
Megan's the victim.
That's
That's
right.
Megan said he shot the gun. Kelsey, on her recorded audio, said she saw him shoot the gun. The eyewitness on the balcony said he saw muzzle shots from him. Straight out said
They
that.
tried to twist this today. People are coming out and saying that he said Kelsey shot Meg, and he did not say Kelsey shot Meg. Like, thank God is you there, okay? Please.
Queen asked, so why is EJ called? He was just the stylist. Because EJ handled those bags. You got to understand that they want to try to establish the fact that nobody identified what was in those bags, including the police. And they want to make sure they question the people who could answer some questions about the bags and also what happened at Kylie's house. They want to know because it led up to the incident. So EJ was there. EJ drove Kylie and Megan to the house. He hung out as much as he could stand it before he said her wig was slipping. Let's go, because she knows she don't like her wig to the back of her head. And I'm just saying, like, yeah, Queen. You don't think he was of any significance? I feel like he's the reason they were able to open up, to be able to open the door to his past violent acts. If not for that questioning from the defense asking about, well, how safe is Tory and how safe did you feel he was around Megan and all that.
Yes.
So
Yes, that
was
was pertinent.
Yeah, that was actually a very important interview. I mean, testimony.
And he was a reluctant witness. He said it. You know?
He
He
didn't want
didn't
to be,
want to testify. Yeah, he didn't want to testify.
and he made some really interesting statements also that It's funny, Armand, actually, we were talking about this, I'm name dropping today, child. No, but it brought to mind a
You ain't
conversation.
name dropping when it happened. You're not name dropping when it is what it is. Y'all was talking, so that ain't name dropping,
No, I'm
child.
just saying. Well, it was because the conversation was that about EJ's testimony and how he, understood about being a gay man around, straight men, especially toxic ones, who are probably homophobic and being uncomfortable, not wanting to interact or engage. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
The
that is. I'm glad that you did mention that because so many of the creative force behind celebrities, with all the hair, the makeup, the stylists, are of the LGBT community, and there, especially in the rap arena, there is a lot of homophobic, and so I imagine that was a very interesting and reflective um, conversation because it's horrible that here are the people that select your clothes, got you looking good because they dress in them too, but they still have to be cautious because of the stigma, and persona that the rap holds for them, and that's horrible. So that's horrible.
Yeah. So Queen is saying Kylie was there. It was her house. They should have called her then. It's like over EJ, I guess. But you have to understand, EJ had a relationship with Megan, and he answered some questions that Kylie couldn't answer. Like he wanted, about like their relationship with Tory and how their past history during the quarantine. Like it was important, I think, to establish the relationship. And EJ was able to do that. Kylie just met them at the WAP video. She didn't know them. She just had them over to the house. The only thing she could probably say is that Tori, they came, I invited them over to hang out, and they got too drunk and I didn't want them here. So they had to go. You think she's going to get on the stand and say that Tori tried to finger her in the pool? I'm not saying that happened. I'm just saying that probably happened. I'm just kidding. But,
Got
but
it.
listen, there was a lady sitting next to me this morning. Ooh, she might listen because she subscribed to me today. So hey, the Raven, her name is Raven, and we were talking, and she knows this is true. So hey, she said that she didn't believe Tori was trying to push up on Kylie at all, and it was already said that he was flirting with Kylie. He didn't want to leave because it was just really him and Kylie left when Megan and them left, and Megan made sure she got back to the house because it could feel something happening with them too. She was not going to be played like that, pushed to
I
the side.
believe it. I believe
Yeah,
that. I believe that 1,000%. And I believe that he was gonna make a play, even a bigger play, if Megan hadn't got back. He absolutely was gonna do that. It is
no,
nothing. It
this
was
lady was
nothing for
like,
him to hit it
she
and
was
keep
like,
going.
"Oh, he wouldn't disrespect Travis like that. He would probably just want to build the relationship so he could, start doing things with Travis." I'm like, They did have a beef, if you don't recall. Like it was.
Yeah, they weren't. They not good. They had a bad history.
I wonder if he knew that this happened until it came out like this. Not that I even know if they're in a relationship. Meaning,
That would be interesting.
yeah, meaning Travis. But
Right.
yeah, he was
Right.
like, "Wait, what is this? What's going on? What happened?" He probably wouldn't even care anyway. I don't think they that's what they do. Um Kelsey didn't say that on trial, though. It's up to the jury to decide. Well, she said it in the audio recording, and everybody's consensus that I've talked to, and everybody who's has 1 centimeter of a brain cell in their head would say, no, let me not say that, because there are people who do, and I do like these people. Why do I like these people? They disagree, but I still like these people, so I have to respect their opinion. But I'm just saying, like, the audio versus her in-person interview, it's very clear she was telling the truth in the audio recording. Come on. She barely answered any questions and said she was scared and said she was pressured and she didn't want to talk. Like, but the audio interview, she was very clear. She was very precise. She even got emotional. Like, she didn't, she basically just pulled the trigger throughout that whole. Oh, well, let me not say that. No pun intended. But I'm just saying, like, it's very, to me, easy to see. Now, if any of these jurors can't, distinguish the two and say, well, I don't know which one she's telling the truth, then maybe they came in on the wrong color bus. I'm just saying, like, meaning they should have been on the yellow bus. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, come on.
And guys, you're probably going to cover this later, or I may have missed it, but there was a shakeup on the jury today, right?
A shakeup? There was no
Yeah.
shakeup. Well, I guess you missed when I said the jury was dismissed for medical appointments.
Oh, it was medical appointments. Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I
no
missed
worries.
it.
Okay, no, that was like right at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Yes, Sneak at Night was at court. I told you there was some drama in the lobby, and your girl Miss Sneak at Night was in the middle of it, and we ain't had no drama prior to this whatsoever. It was been like a little family up there, even with people who disagree with each other. But today, for some odd reason, the energy was just, somebody woke up on the wrong side of the bed and
Well, sir,
chose.
well, she went on her live talking a lot of stuff last night, which could have instigated that.
No, because I don't even think that person knows about that, to be honest with you. They were standing
Oh,
right close to each other and nothing was being said, but I'm just saying, I don't think she knew about
oh,
that. I found out about that, but I don't think that person even knew, because sometimes you just don't know about another person who has bothered by you. They bothered by something that was said, and you just living your life.
right.
But what, no, it was a guy in the, so there's a particular gentleman who's typically in the public line. Today he had on a very colorful jacket, lots of colors, like crayon colors. So he was a big guy too. I don't know who this guy is though, but I know that he's very loud and public when he feels like something is not right, or like for instance, I think yesterday he was in the public line. I think official King Payne, shout out to him. He nice to me. I'm nice to him. He had jumped in the front of the line. He must have came in the afternoon. He got right in the front of the line, and then this guy was like, that guy wasn't here. He was not here. Like, he just was like, and I looked like, who is he talking about? But sometimes people just stand places because they're talking. It's not necessarily that they're jumping in front of people. It's just they're having a conversation with somebody that happens to be standing in front of the line. That's, but I think, he had a problem. But this same guy today, and mind you, I'm on the other, so I wasn't on the public side. I was on the press side, and I wasn't trying to be in the middle of none of that. I actually, it's funny because I was in the line because I was second in line today, and they confirmed that I was on the press side. That something had broke out between Mo, that Indian. I don't know if he's Indian. Is he Indian? Because I don't want to refer to him as that. But you guys know who I'm talking about, right? Mo, the attorney who does his. He's not even a criminal defensive. He's not even a criminal attorney.
He's Persian. He's from that area. Yeah.
Persian. Okay. So for some reason, okay, first of all, I'm second in line, right? And I have two people that I'm looking out for spots. And I hope none of these people are listening to this. They probably not. I'm not going to worry about it. But I'm just saying, my girls, they know I'm gonna be there. So when the next person came, I told him that these two people who he knows and he's cool with anyway are ahead of him because they're getting breakfast or whatever. He's like, yeah, no problem. Well, maybe I missed the fact that Mo came in, and it doesn't matter because he didn't have to. It wasn't like a fight. If he said, well, I was here before this guy came, then okay, well then it was not a problem. Nevertheless, I guess Mo felt like people had jumped in front of him in line, and because at this point he doesn't have a press pass either. He has to wait. He's on standby just like the other all of us. Armand too, standby. So we're all scrunched up because what happens is the clerk comes over and she's like, okay, let's line up in order of how you arrived. And I'm thankful that she's fair like that, because otherwise it would be crazy. And I just thought about it because my new friend, little Jasmine, told me, We should have just had a piece of paper ourselves and numbered it and have people sign it, because I'm like almost the first one there. I could have definitely done that. I haven't, you know what I'm saying? It would make sense. Anyway, this guy, so I have another friend. She's an entertainment attorney. She was on street TV with me. Her name is Afi, and she shows her face. She has a afro. She's a beautiful queen. All right. So she was up there with me because she was the one of the people I was saying. She was right behind me. Let's just say that. She was right behind me. For some reason, he was like, "You're in front of me. You didn't come." You know, he started arguing with her, and I was like, and I was talking to somebody else, so I didn't even realize it. But when I looked, I was trying to accept to let him know that they were here. They had went and got their breakfast. But anyway, he wasn't even here that early anyway, so I don't even know why he jumped so far. Nevertheless, it was a whole fight. And she just talked about how non-confrontational she is, but she was like, oh, it's on. Mind you, she's a lawyer. She's like, oh, and they're both lawyers, I guess, but anyway, all that to say is that the drama started early. That was even before the
Is
clerk
he
came.
really a lawyer?
Is he? I don't know. I don't know anything about him.
Okay.
I know he works for, is it Lawyers for Workers? That people, they always tell us in the chat. I don't think is Sharita here?
Yes, that's what she
Oh,
told. That's the name of it.
Lawyers for Workers. Okay. Yeah, so he works for that, but I don't know if he's a practicing attorney. I have no idea. I know he's not from California, and he doesn't really know California law, because I heard him saying like, well, I don't know California law, and I don't know, I don't know his status. I have no idea. G. Washington said her YouTube video today was very inaccurate. Yep. Let me tell you, when I was going down to lunch
Whose YouTube channel wasn't that accurate?
you're talking about Neek at night? Probably
Oh,
so.
okay.
When I was going downstairs to lunch, because I pretty much, when we get let out, I go right downstairs because, take my little bathroom break, and I go jump on Conscious TV so I can get that done and, get that out, get that done, and I can then get a bite if I want or whatever after there's. So what happened, Love Warrior? You there? Okay.
I'm here. I'm
Okay.
here.
It's like you left and came back. It was weird.
Um,
So when I'm going downstairs to lunch, I pull out my phone because our phones have to be off. So I have to turn on my phone because I gotta get the link that from Conscious and whatever. So when I opened my phone, I jumped on YouTube. I don't know, my YouTube came up and I don't know why her video popped up, but her video popped up and it said, witness says something like witness says there was a female shooter. It was something that wasn't accurate. It was totally out of context. Nevertheless, I was like, wow, this is what we're gonna do. You know what I think it is that it's not enough. There's not enough blogging on this from Tory's, that is soft on Tory. Like, we need more, you know what I'm saying? They probably reached out like, we need you down there. That's what I get. So let's wrap this up.
I feel like the most of the blogs that are covering Tory are soft on his side. But she was in court today. How could she misconstrue what happened? See, I got a problem when people aren't ethical. Blog about whatever you want. Be biased in your opinion if you want, but report the damn facts. That's all.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the next witness is so they had a rebuttal witness, which means this witness is returning, and the witness was delayed. The jury was allowed to take a break, and then they said never mind because he ended up arriving right then. So the rebuttal witness is Randy Zapata, and he's the criminalist with the LAPD, the DNA expert. They asked him, were you present during the testimony? He said yes. Asked him to explain transfer of DNA, which he did, and he said it's very possible, even when you have a handshake with somebody, you could transfer your DNA. They asked him that, and he said yes. What about if they shake another hand? Will your DNA still go with them to that other hand? And he said, what did he say? He said, my DNA may not transfer, because he used him as the example. Like if you shook someone's hand and then they shook someone's hand, would your DNA show up on that second person's hand? He said, my DNA may not transfer. They asked if a weapon was wiped with a tissue, would it remove DNA? He said some.
But it'll remove them damn fingerprints, though.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's what I was saying to myself when he was saying that. I'm like, go take them fingerprints off. Because I ain't heard them bring up the fact that the prints were lifted off the gun, except for it wasn't even in testimony when it came up. It came when they were just talking to each other. I overheard it. They said, now, what about somebody who just washed their hands? Would they have less DNA? What about if they were in a swimming pool? And the funny thing is, did I tell y'all that I went on Tisa Talks? Do y'all know who Tisa Talks is? She's a gossip blogger on YouTube.
Yeah, you were telling us that. Yeah, but yeah, you told us last night. I'm so excited about that. Yes.
So Tisa Talks on there. I said, remember, they were in the swimming pool. That might be why that it's inconclusive on the DNA. And they were like, case closed. But and then I think Afi, the attorney, looked it up. Like, does swimming pool water, chlorine or whatever, affect DNA transfer? And it said yes. So
all that chlorine and all that too.
Right. So the fact that it came up in court today, I was like, yes, I said that. It's possible. Not yes for Tory for his sake. I'm just saying, I'm just for me. Like I called it. Like, that can actually be a possibility of why no DNA was on the gun, or inconclusive amount of DNA particles. All right. So he was asked if he recalled the hypothetical: if a person fires a gun 5 times, will DNA be left on the gun? And also is it possible that none would be left behind? So he said yes to both of those things. But he said he doesn't know if Mr. Peterson shot the gun because the DNA was inclusive. Does not mean he didn't fire the gun either. They discussed expert testifying to a female's DNA being found on the gun. Because remember, the defense had their own DNA expert, which they weren't accredited. There was a lot of holes in this guy's resume. I mean, he had
that little crazy man that had the laugh at 30 years, but he's not accredited or anything, right?
Correct. Yeah, not accredited. They don't do their own. They do their own audits. He's the only one who could be alerted if there's a failed audit or if any issue of any kind.
He just can manipulate his own shit. They shouldn't even brought him up because the jury don't even have to take his testimony in. And I wonder how the hell he even got to be certified as a damn expert witness.
Because he's a professional witness. He's been doing this for decades. He was paid $6,250 to do this testimony. And anyway, so the
bogus.
So the prosecution is asking the LAPD's accredited DNA expert, who has to take annual exams to recertify and all these things. Let's see. So he said he does not agree with that DNA expert's findings and explains that nothing explicitly tells him a female must be included in the DNA on the gun. They said
they didn't shoot that loud enough. I'm glad that happened.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you hadn't heard that? That the DNA expert came back and rebutted their DNA expert? Okay. That happened.
Awesome.
They said 4 people's DNA was found on the gun, which we had heard. There was at least one male, and that male was the 90% contributor. Because I don't know if you remember that they broke down the different percentages of the DNA. This person had 90%. Whoever they are, they weren't identified, but they just knew that one person had way more DNA on it than the others, and it went from like 90%. Then there was like a mid, and then there was like a 2% and a 3%, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, mm, mm, mm. Okay, we're almost home, y'all. Female does not have to be included. They reiterated, discussed that the lab was unaccredited. He said yes. He asked the difference between an accredited versus an unaccredited lab. That he said first is there's transparency. Second, they meet the proper standards. And third, they have access to certain databases like the FBI's National and DNA Database. They're audited every year. There's internal and external audits. For the internal audits, there's casework. The internal audits would be on their casework and their personnel. The external audits would be the accrediting party will audit them. So they asked him about what happens about failed audits. He said we'll get a letter, and he said we could lose accreditation if things aren't handled. Like they probably send a letter like these. We found these little flaws or infractions or whatever they call it. We need you to fix that by this date. You know. All right. So now the cross exam. The prosecution is up. Did you graduate from? Uh
I'm
huh.
sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
am so happy that the prosecution brought this witness to tidy that up about that expert and have this. This is very important. This is good.
Mhm.
Okay.
They definitely needed to clean it up because they left that a mess. All right, so the the defense is up with the DNA expert, the rebuttal expert. Did you graduate from Cal State LA? Yes. Did you know Mr. Taylor, who taught at Cal State LA? I think he said yes. He said, "Do you know him?" He said no. So he knew. Oh, so that DNA expert taught at Cal State LA. And I guess he knew that because they probably gave him that information. Do you know him? No. He asked about the expert witness that we just. He asked if there's any reason to believe his lab isn't sufficient. He said no. He said he can't answer to their transparency and asked. And so then he goes on to ask him about DNA transfer. He said they gave some examples of touch DNA versus non-touch DNA. They asked if do you expect someone's DNA to be found on something touched several times? He said it depends. He said, what about if a gun is handled without a glove, without gloves? Or no, he said it depends. Like if a gun was handled without gloves, he said, any evidence? What about any evidence if the gun was wiped? He said no. Any evidence if let me see any evidence if oh okay, so he's asking if any DNA evidence. Wait, I'm confused now. Any evidence if gun is wiped? I don't know if he's asking. So I guess he's asking if there's any evidence if the gun in this case was wiped, and he said no. Then he asks. He says if a person a gun without gloves, would the DNA be on the gun? He said he couldn't say. He said I would expect it, but it's not 100%. He said there's no evidence. His client's DNA is on the gun. He confirmed that. He said he discussed, well, not no evidence. He said there's no evidence. There's no evidence my client's DNA is on the gun. They discussed male versus female DNA. They said it was major versus low level contributors on the gun, like I explained with the percentages. He said that a 90%, person with or whoever had the 90%, it doesn't mean that they touched the gun last. He asked about the minor contributors, the minor percentages, and he said that it's not sufficient enough for the DNA to be proven. To be the DNA to it's not proven. It's something else too. It's not sufficient for the DNA to. Oh, okay. To tell if the person is male or female, it's not enough. They asked if Kelsey's DNA could be determined on the gun. No, disagreed with Mr. Taylor's findings about female DNA. Said the magazine regard to the magazine, can't tell who touched it last because the magazine excluded Tory, and I believe, well, they didn't say it didn't have any DNA, did it? Did they? They just said Tory was excluded. They confirmed Tory's DNA was excluded on that magazine. If he had Kelsey's DNA, he could make a comparison. He could determine if she touched the gun. But remember, he never got it because they didn't get it from her and didn't submit it into evidence or whatever, so weren't able to. So then he gives a hypothetical, and I didn't write that he wrote because they kept repeating stuff. He said the expectation would be that the transfer would be on the would have transferred to the expectation would be there for DNA. And the hypothetical now, as I remember it being, if someone shot a gun, if someone, you could tell someone it's their gun if they're handling the gun all the time, wouldn't their DNA be on there? Like if this person it's their gun, they handle it all the time, wouldn't their DNA be on there? And he said there was an expectation of it, but it's not, 100%. He said it's not accurate that DNA is not on the gun. So now there's a redirect. The defense is back up. Do you know if my client walked? Okay. Do you know if my client walked out of the pool and handled the gun? They said no. Do you know any facts of the case? He said no. He's just a DNA expert.
It's crazy.
He said,
oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Then he said, he asked who has the burden of proof? And there was an objection. They said, you would expect DNA on the gun if it was shot 5 times. He said, yes, it would be expected. He said nothing further. So, okay. So I think that he was dismissed at that point. Court was still in session. It was still on the record. So we stayed to hear what was going on. They talked about tomorrow's arguments and instructions, maybe another witness. There's going to be an earlier start, just like 30 minutes earlier. Finalizing instructions reminds them the jury not to discuss the case or look it up or read anything about it. The jury leaves. The judge wants to discuss exhibits, the evidence that has been submitted, the different things, the pictures, the audio, the text, the social media posts, all those things is included in this. They went through, there's so many of them. There's I remember him saying first he was starting off at smaller numbers. Let's go through, so they went through 1 through 5 and then 10 through, then he started skipping around and it was like 3,000. We're at number 3,115. I'm like, oh my goodness, how much evidence, how many exhibits are there? Some of the exhibits I have were, a map of the location, pictures of the casings, picture of the defendant. There's a picture of the acrylic nail, blood stains in the street, picture of, a CD of the body cam footage. I don't know what this picture of is. The picture of the chain that broke in the street.
Yeah, there's no way that the jury is going to look at over 3,000 pieces of evidence. That's not going to happen.
Audio, a body cam, 911 call, another 911 call, CD of second camera, and the gunshots, the audio. That's some of the things that they were listing for the exhibits. So then they were discussing jury instructions. The judge says that it's important to explain the difference between the different types of immunity, because Kelsey had use immunity, not transactional immunity, and not full immunity. Hey, pretty, you made it. Although I'm pretty much done. But hello, catch the replay. Just going back to the beginning, because this today was interesting. But thank you for popping in. As that goes with everyone, whether you're in the chat or in the bushes. Let's see. So judge says it's important to explain the difference of types of immunity. They added a paragraph about experts disagreeing with each other because they want to make sure that it's on record that their accredited DNA expert disagreed with their unaccredited DNA expert and the reasons why.
Good. Good.
Yeah, the prosecution wants to include language about hiding evidence and witness intimidation, or I don't know if they used the word intimidation, but it was like, maybe they did because I wrote it, but I know they meant that. So we'll just say that they wanted to add a paragraph about that.
It'll be
Prosecution
interesting if the judge allows that, though. That would be interesting.
says allowing language based on um, Kelsey's recorded statement. Yeah, so they argued that something about something Kelsey said in her statement that makes them that alludes to the fact that she was that evidence was not being they weren't being forthcoming, and that there was some type of witness intimidation happening. Allowing, because she said she was threatened on the street. She's talking about the public. When she was saying the public, um, she was, and she can't go places like she.
Hmm.
But she also said, she's terrified and pressured and all those things, and it was hard to point to who, because every person who asked, "Well, was it me?" She said, "Well, no, it was them." And it wasn't. It was me? No, mm-mm. It's just a lot. She'll just go off topic or say, I don't, I'm afraid of everything, or LA scares me. It's stressful. Okay, so the judge says they need to add an instruction about diversion. The defense argues probation is not a diversion. Says Tory's diversion months. The judge will add an instruction for it because they're gonna allow that. They said no lesser included charges. Both the defense and prosecution agreed. Closing arguments will be tomorrow. He said that. I remember him saying he was hoping the prosecution would wrap it up quick so that by the time they come back from lunch, the defense could be up, and then following that, they could do the jury instructions, and then they could be off to deliberation. So
Wow. So pretty much, there, if everything, depending on whether they get Justin in to testify or not, or call anybody else, or dun
for
dun
Tory,
dun, Tory, that's gonna be, what everybody's waiting on. And
exactly.
I just think um, that I know for sure that his attorney's gonna say don't testify, even though ultimately it's Tory's decision because of what he would open himself up to. And if he did testify, he's gonna be on the stand for 2-3 days, child. So
Okay, because the prosecution gonna be like, "Woo, we got some questions for you." Um,
yep.
Keno said, "I heard the prosecution wanted to add 2 more charges of bribery." Well, actually, they wanted to amend the third felony that they added to the case, and they wanted to add bribery to that charge. That's actually what happened, which I discussed yesterday. Okay, so, but thank you for bringing that up and reminding me to say it again. That the judge didn't feel it was fair, and I think that was fair of him to do. Yeah, so the defense said that his client may or may not testify. Defense client may or may not testify. Oh, not what? Oh, I wrote this and didn't even realize it. Defense client may or may not testify. We'll know. Oh, I wrote that. Yeah, because I was like, I wasn't sure if they were talking about Corey, because the prosecution said, will we know by 8:30 a.m.? We should know by 8:30 a.m. if their witness will testify. They didn't say which witness, and we didn't know who they were talking about. So I said, well, it could be Tory. So,
And like you just mentioned, Corey and Kylie, and we know damn well that neither one of them are testifying.
oh yeah,
And
that's right.
so,
Or
and so,
Quan. What about Quan? Let's not forget about Quan, the driver.
okay, that's a possibility. Now, if that's said, then actually the defense has had only what, 2 witnesses?
Yeah.
That's
Well, they're bringing,
pitiful.
yeah, because they had Stogner and that DNA expert, and quote, in air quotes.
Wagner did not do anything favorable for them, and of
Oh,
course,
yeah, their eyewitness. We can't forget.
their eyewitness, who was their main defensive star, basically helped blow their case up. He did not. It was not favorable that they were hoping. It wasn't what they had hoped for. I'll just say that it was not. You know, it wasn't good.
at
So
all. And on
so
top of
they've
that,
had
he
one,
opened
two. So
up.
they've had three witnesses so far. Then, huh? Three.
They had Sean. They had Stogner. There was a rebuttal witness. I don't know if they count.
The DNA guy,
Yeah.
Dogner, and the Sean. Okay, yeah, three. Okay.
So I have looked over here. So more exhibits. I think I already talked about this. Oh no, yeah, we got more. So
I like how you
yeah,
said that.
yeah, because I
Oh
remember.
no, yes.
I remember this happened. This actually, I think this was before that, what I just told you, actually. But so I think I told you the end of court, but there was another page on the other side. I'm sorry. But it says more exhibits were discussed. They discussed so many exhibits. There were no objections from either side about these exhibits. And well, there were a couple, but at the point where because I was kind of breaking up, oh, there are more exhibits, no objections so far. More exhibits, no objections. Defense objects to the IG posts. One of them says Megan needs to be shot and killed to show, I guess, that the public was harassed. She was being harassed on public social media. Um, Tory was perched when these exhibits were being discussed. He was very interested in these exhibits, and when they were talking about the text messages and stuff. Text from Kelsey, Tory shot Megan, was objected to also, but it's going to be allowed. The defense argued the IG post. Um, I guess it was another IG post. I think the one that where she put her injury, her foot injury up there, saying that stuff. Kelsey's audio is going to be allowed without transcript. It says they argued over admission of rap lyrics, but rap lyrics will be allowed.
Wow.
Prosecution, and there was reasons. I mean, they kept going back and forth. The judge was like, well, look, if it was opened up, he said, you asked the investigator about the rap lyrics. He said, but I only asked her about one line or two lines. He's like, well, you asked, because I remember at some point, I believe she said she had heard or read them or heard them because of that interview in September. And he was asking her, well, do you remember? Let me refresh your memory. So the judge said, well, because you did that, now we can allow them. So he was like, but the whole thing? Woo, he was mad. All right. So then the prosecution speaks up, like before they end for the day. He's like, well, hold up. I got an issue. He said, the defense counsel keeps smirking and something and nothing and something happens. I don't know. I can't read that. And something what happens. He said he called him and he's an idiot, a clown, in chambers, obscenities. He's like, I have remained professional despite all of this, but like I'm not gonna be taking this no more. Like, and then he was like, he should be admonished by the court. And the defense said, I stated my reasons, and the judge said, it gets heated. Now let's move on. That's how the judge addressed that.
That's
And
crazy.
that's when I said then after that they discussed the instructions, and the judge said it's important to explain the different immunities. So I had already read all the other stuff. So that was pretty much it for the day. Yep. So do you have anything? Because I can't stay long. I got to get up really early because I think there's going to be more press because tomorrow's closing arguments, and the press wants to get those closing arguments. So I got to get up really, really early tomorrow. I thought they can't find Quan either. Okay. Hi, Christina Taylor. Can't find Quan either. So I don't remember that we talked much about Quan, but I know that we said that the possibility of tomorrow's witness could be Quan. We don't know yet because tomorrow's the last day. So we will have to see with who this possible witness might be. It could be Tory, it could be Quan, it could be, I don't know who. I think they didn't want to say the name because they didn't want us to hear it, but the prosecution already knows. They just said, we need to know by 8:30 in the morning. All right. All right. I think so. Do you have anything, Love Warrior, that you want to
No,
say before we?
I just that what is his name, Magdison or whatever, been
You keep
across
popping in
again.
and out.
Huh?
You keep popping in and out. It's like you disappear and then you come back. But go
Huh?
ahead.
I just the defense attorney is it okay now? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Well, I'm just gonna say bye, everybody. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Or maybe Goddess is gone. Goddess, come back.
Like it's frozen. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I did. I couldn't hear you. I was only thing I wanted to say real quick was the attorney for Tory. Um, do you get a feeling how the jury, the reaction today with the witness, Sean Kelly, how the jury did you see any of that, or you probably were writing and stuff? I'm just curious how their reaction was to him.
Well, I mean, they were listening. He made him laugh a couple times because he's a little goofy. But other than that, I think I didn't really notice the faces because I was writing, so I wasn't really seeing what they were looking like in real time as he was speaking. I wasn't able to see that, but I did know that they reacted to him. They were paying attention. They weren't like bored or anything. So, but I mean, I think the real question is how they react to to the prosecution when they tore him to shreds. They tore
Yes,
him to shreds on the stand, and then came and brought their rebuttal DNA expert to really make sure they can flush him down the toilet. So
yes,
let's see, Moesha Stan. I think most of the bloggers are pro Tory. You're the one that reports from the courtroom without letting your personal opinion lead your reporting. Away from Megan Cuniff, then you for more details. Oh, cool. Okay. Really? So everybody's slanting? Everybody's spinning? Okay. Well, that's just, I'm not built that way. I mean, even if I don't like it, I'm going to tell you what's going on. So yeah, definitely stay tuned, stay subscribed. If you haven't, please subscribe. I do also have a member channel. When I do get a breather, I plan on going back there with the real juice on like the other stuff, the blogger stuff and all, the juice. So join the channel. It's $1.99 a month. It ain't gonna cripple you. And you get actually more than it's worth, way more than $1.99 a month. That you know what I'm saying. Now, anybody who's new here, I also, I'm a meditation coach. I have meditations on my channel. I think there's a playlist for them. If you are interested in meditations, mindful breathing, it's very relaxing, cleansing, helps you heal, transform, um, and manifest. So you can find those there. And yeah, I also do something called a shot of love on Sundays, some Sundays, which I will plan on being back this Sunday, just to remind us of who we truly are, all the magic within and all of that is, yeah, we talk about stuff. Like this might be my topic for a shot of love on Sunday because they needed some love, child. That's the whole problem. Lack of love. But I'm gonna end it here so I can get on out of here and get my rest for tomorrow. But I will be back tomorrow, same time. I appreciate everybody. And Love Warrior, thank you for coming in and helping me out here and giving your
always.
insight. And yeah, much love to
Thank you, love
everybody.
to the chat, the warriors, to you, Goddess. Appreciate you so very much.
All
All the
right.
warriors and everyone. Till
Thank you.
tomorrow.
All right, Thomas Letwick. Peace. Peace, everybody. Thank you for coming through.
Bye.
If you missed Republic Crack, go into the replay for the whole thing because you came in on the later end. But we'll see you next time. Bye.